Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Hey, I'm Kim Holderness.
And I'm Ben Holderness.
We host the Holderness Family Podcast every Tuesday.
You may know us from the silly videos that we make online.
Or a book about marriage called Everybody Fights.
Or as winners of season 33 of The Amazing Race.
Still can't believe that happened. Listen, we do a lot of stuff, but our podcast is our most favorite thing.
Yeah, because every week we get to sit down face to face, talk to each other about marriage, family, mental health, or just anything that we want to know more about.
Sometimes we have expert interviews, sometimes it's just us, but our goal is to bring some joy and laughter into your life every week.
Our other goal is that maybe you will learn something as well.
Right, so search the Holderness Family Podcast and check out our most recent episodes. We have one about staying organized with creators of the Home Edit.
And one about being diagnosed with ADHD as an adult.
We hope you'll join us.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile, the podcast where we walk home from the movies, and it is the end of the year. Technically, it's New Year's Day, and it's the beginning of the new year.
It's the only time when you'll hear TV reviews on the main feed.
That's right. We are looking back at 2022 in TV. We also have done our best movies of the year, which is available to listen to now if you have not already listened to it. If you have already listened to it, then mere moments have passed since we just finished recording that, and I have just the porn star martini I ordered has just arrived. So I ordered it in one episode. It has arrived in another.
I love this. We're in a little booth in a bar. It's perfect for recording. And
Kathy's Negroni is there.
My Negroni with a bit of Prosecco in it is here. And we're
tipsy,
normally out walking
perhaps,
and talking, but today we're in a booth. It's been a cracking year for TV. We have had the best time over on our Patreon doing so many TV reviews, more than I think we ever dreamed. We may have slightly regretted doing both
House of the Dragon and Rings of Power back-to-back weekly episodes at the same time. That was a bad idea. But certainly you guys got a lot of value out of us.
But we're here to talk about we're going to talk about our best TV of 2022.
This was a great year for TV.
Great year.
Like, I'm looking at this list, and
it's hard. I find it hard.
The top 5 are incredible, and then everything in the honourable mentions outside the top 5.
We have a new category this year.
Is brilliant.
Much like our TV, our film review, we have a new category this year, and our new category, the year that was in it, is Feel Good. So
the
TV
Joy
shows.
Watch.
Joy Watch. Okay, we both called it different things.
Oh, I thought that's what you called it.
Well, it's either or. It was TV that may not have cracked the top 5, but that actually just made us really happy when we watched it. So we've got best coming up. Honourable mentions: Feel Good / Joy Watch,
The Guilty Pleasure,
and Bad.
And the most disappointing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you didn't do that?
We really crossed our...
I did that.
I can very quickly do that.
We'll come to that in a minute because we're going to take some breaks because this is a long old stretch. So
Yeah.
strap in. First, let's kick it off with our top 5 TV shows of the year. Kathy, what was your top 5?
Okay.
What was your number 5?
My number 5 totally surprised me this year. So a lot of you will be aware of the Elizabeth Holmes case, the trial about her company Theranos, and how they did loads of dodgy things and pretended that they could, find diseases in blood tests that were done through the pick of a finger. It was all total bull, and she's a massive scammer. I had listened very in-depthly to the podcast about it.
It's a great podcast.
Knew the podcast called The Dropout and knew a lot about it. And then I heard that a series was coming out in the UK and Ireland on Disney Plus, in Hulu in the States, starring Amanda Seyfried, about it, called The Dropout. And I was like, oh, look, I've listened to the podcast, nothing else for me to know. I'll throw on the first episode to see what it's like. It's fantastic, and The Dropout is my number 5. If you, like me, know a lot about it, if you've also watched the HBO documentary, which I had watched, and some of you may have even read the book, which I had drawn the line at.
Blood Money is the book, right?
I can't remember the name of the book,
so.
but this TV show finds a way to retell the story in the most compelling way, and Amanda Seyfried is so good as Elizabeth Holmes that they had actually commissioned and were in pre-production for a film starring Jennifer Lawrence, right? They bought the rights and everything. Jennifer Lawrence saw this performance and was like, I'm not doing it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
This is so perfect that you couldn't.
Yeah, how could you top it?
You'd actually embarrass yourself if you tried to top this. So it's a fantastic... If you know nothing about Theranos, you just enjoy it as a story about how Silicon Valley works and kind of the rise and fall of this really famous influencer and someone who models themselves in the image of Steve Jobs. And it's really fascinating with something like Apple, right? When they launched the iPhone initially, the very first time they launched it, like, it wasn't fully operational. It didn't matter because it operated soon after. It's a phone, who cares? If you're talking about blood results of human beings and you're talking about diagnosing conditions, it is dark and it is evil to make that up.
And that's the problem, because she was playing the same Silicon Valley game, but with higher stakes.
With human lives.
Yeah.
And but she's a very fascinating character. And then her partner at the time, who is played by... the actor's name escapes me, but he's plays Saeed in
Saeed
Lost.
from Lost.
Those two actors on screen together are just phenomenal together, and it's just a cracking show. Like, we were desperate to watch it week to week, we couldn't stop watching it, and I just found it hugely compelling. So yeah, Dropout on Disney Plus.
Naveen Andrews,
he's amazing, unrecognisable nearly. So the Dropout on Disney Plus / Hulu was number 5 for me. Loved it.
I concur.
And when we were going through all
show.
the stuff we'd watched this year, and I was really thinking about it, I don't know that when I was watching The Dropout I would have thought it would end up in my top 5, but reflecting on the year that was in it, it's just, it's really stuck with me. It's phenomenal.
It's a brilliant TV show. My number 5 of the year is it House of the Dragon or The House of the Dragon?
I have no idea.
I think it's House.
It's your list.
There's no definitive article. It's House of the Dragon on HBO or Sky Atlantic. This is a show that we both kind of hated, off and on kind of hated as we were watching it.
At one point, because we were reviewing it every week, at one point I said to Dave, I can't watch it anymore.
Yeah, Kathy at one point said, I'm out, find a new co-host. Give Joe Kiley a text. Get him in here. This show, I think, week to week was a little bit of a struggle, because it takes it's very ambitious. It's trying to tell a story over decades in 10 episodes, right? And this is only season 1. And I don't think it was wholly successful on that front. But I gotta say, by the end, I was incredibly happy with the whole thing as a whole.
It paid off very well.
Episodes 8 and 9 in particular were so good. They were 2 of the best TV episodes I saw this year.
We had so much fun reviewing those. It was,
and so overall, it has great performances in it. It is Game of Thrones back on form, I would say. And so it was good to be back in that universe. There are some brilliant performances in here. It is setting up to be a huge epic battle between like 2 houses, or 1 house really, that is at Civil War. And I'm excited for season 2.
All led up to this moment of me drinking a Negroni with Prosecco in it.
Oh, sorry.
Dave still doesn't
Stop
know what
talking
I'm
about your
talking about.
TikTok trend. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, do you know what? House of the Dragon isn't in my top 5, but I was glad to be back in the world, and I loved the last couple of episodes.
Yeah. Now, this one wasn't such a slam dunk, as it was barely made my top 5. My top 4 are locked in and have been for a long time. So go.
But it was one that we spent a lot of time talking about and watching this year. So it's worth
it. Won me over in the end, despite its faults.
My number 4 of the year was The White Lotus season 2.
Oh yeah.
I struggled. Do you know what? My film list was much more definitive for me. My TV one's been hopping around. So at one point, The White Lotus was my number 2. It's jumped up to my number 4 now.
Jumped down, right? Surely.
Jumped down to my number 4 now, and we spent a lot of time talking about this as well on our Patreon. But The White Lotus season 2 for me was absolutely fantastic. White Lotus season 1 for me was in my top 5 last year. So this is 2 years in a row where the show's in my top 5. Mike White is a genius, the creator of the show. It's so, for anyone who doesn't know, White Lotus season 1 is set in a resort in, I believe it was Hawaii. All these rich people go to this resort, right? And it was very much, it's nominally a murder mystery, but it's really a character show, and it was kind of really dealing with like class, right? Season 2 is a different resort called The White Lotus, all different characters bar one, Jennifer Coolidge, who's possibly the greatest comedic actress of all time.
So good.
And it's set in a resort in Sicily, and the kind of theme of this season is like sex and transactional sex. How in every relationship there's some sort of transaction when it comes to sex. And has a better murder mystery than the first season. And I loathe to like compare them, because I just like comparing things like that, but by the end, I think I was enjoying it more than the first season. But at the beginning, I was enjoying it less. I had a real roller coaster with it. But what was the most fun about watching White Lotus every week is the memes, all the chatter online about it.
It was event TV.
It was event TV,
which I think was a surprising.
More so than House of the Dragon.
Well,
and it followed.
maybe not more so. But it was
a
It was a surprise as event TV. Like House of the Dragon was always going to be event TV.
I really believed in it though, because the HBO Sunday night slot is the slot right for event TV. And when I heard that White Lotus,
insisted on that as well, right? It picked up from House of the Dragon. Right?
Well, when I heard that it was coming the week after House of the Dragon in the Sunday night slot, I suddenly was like, "Oh, this show's going to be good," because they would never do that. And that's the slot come January that The Last of Us is going to be in.
I can't wait for that.
The online frenzy about the White Lotus was so much fun, and now I'm talking myself into wishing it was higher up my list. But I had so much fun with it.
Never too late, guy. You can revise it on the spot.
In love with Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched it, or if you did watch it, and I know a few people watched it and turned it off because they got a bit bored.
Oh, finish it.
Keep going.
Finish it, because episode 7.
Well, episode 5 is when it kicks off.
Yes, but the final episode was fantastic.
Go for it. Anyway, that's my number 4. The White Lotus.
It does get going.
It's on HBO and Sky Atlantic.
Okay, love it. My number 4 of the year is The Rehearsal by Nathan Fielder on HBO or Sky Atlantic as well. I think I'm looking. If I was to break down,
HBO always knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, I've got.
No.
Okay, I won't tell you how many.
Oh, by the way, we didn't say
but
upfront.
it's a HBO landslide.
We didn't say for upfront, because we had too much to drink before we hit record. We don't tell each other our list, so as always, total surprise to each of us.
Yeah,
and as always,
and a delight.
A delight.
It's always a delight to discover your list and where we differ.
And as always, they're subjective. There are opinions. As I've already mentioned, from one day to the next, my list has hopped around a bit. So
you really struggled. We've been chatting away as we've made these lists.
I struggle with the TV list more than the movie one. It's just so much good TV.
I struggled only with slot number 5. House of the Dragon scraped its way in there.
Anyway, what's your number 4?
But The Rehearsal was dead set on my top 5 from the beginning. So this is a show, if anyone doesn't know, it is Nathan Fielder is a comedian who created a show called Nathan For You, which was a sort of probably a parody of those sort of self-help documentary series, reality shows that were famous in the noughties. So he came in and helped struggling businesses, but it was all a piss take, right? This is him moving on that genre. At the end of Nathan For You, he starts to do things which clearly are the genesis for The Rehearsal. And The Rehearsal is a show where Nathan Fielder takes normal people, right, who are facing an uncomfortable situation. So in the first episode, it's somebody who wishes to tell one of their friends that they had lied about many years ago about having a master's degree. They don't have a master's degree, and they want to come clean. And they're nervous about this situation. So what Nathan Fielder provides in this show, and they're nominally real people, whether or not you believe it or not, so it's reality TV. He provides a rehearsal space to rehearse that scenario, that confrontation. So he recreates and he says this throughout the show. I'm using HBO's money to do this. He goes to a warehouse, creates the bar, recreates the bar down to the coasters, down to every detail of where this showdown will happen. He hires actors. He then makes the actors shadow the woman he's going to have the conversation with to learn everything about them, so that it's a more convincing performance. And that, guys, is episode 1.
And let's not say where this goes.
Where this show goes, you will not expect.
Dave actually
it is
dragged
a
me
rabbit hole.
And I think on episode 3 you said you have to watch the show with me, and because it's not quite episodic, it was fine for me to jump in on episode 3.
But I would recommend watching it from the beginning.
So good. And then you got my mom into it, who's obsessed with it.
Guys, this show is unlike any I've ever seen. Nathan Fielder is a legitimate genius. He's someone.
So interestingly, some of our patrons, and we'll get to their best and worst of the year, a couple of them said it was the best, a couple of them said it was the worst.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I don't think it's for everyone. I think you will argue with each other over how much of it is real, how much of it is constructed. A lot of it is clearly constructed. But the payoff, the weird introspective rabbit hole journey that Nathan Fielder, the character, goes on is so fascinating.
Can I say that one of my best TV
funny
scenes,
guys, that's the other thing, it is
funny.
So funny.
One of my best TV scenes of the year happened in The Rehearsal, and all I'll say is a kid goes down a slide and you won't believe what happens next. so good. Okay, my number 3 of the year is a show that I literally just watched when I was sick with COVID and lying on the sofa all day, and it was when I say one of the best days of my life, I binged it so bad. It's called The Traitors. It is a reality TV format that just launched this year. This was the British version. It aired on BBC. It is coming
There's an American
to
version
NBC
coming, right?
in January,
Yeah.
and they shot it in the same Scottish castle. So
And former guest of this podcast,
Yeah.
Lee Gant, worked on both series.
yeah, he writes the lines for the host, so that is thrilling for us. I tried to get him to come on the podcast and talk about it. He pretended not to see that. I believe he signed it. I believe he signed an NDA. Anyway, the Traitors. If you're a fan of competition reality TV, much like Mike White, who wrote The White Lotus and was in The Survivor and The Amazing Race,
which is a great fact that
Yeah,
I
amazing
very
fact.
recently learned.
The Traitors, because it's season 1, makes it so good. I truly always believe that the best season of a reality TV show is the first season, because they're kind of pure.
Yeah.
What I love about The Traitors is, first of all, there's no like influencers in it, right? Like when you watch something like Love Island, you're just watching a load of semi-celebrities, right, hook up. The Traitors is like the most normal people.
Wannabe semi-celebrities.
Well, no, but a lot of them are. They're already influencers before you
right,
go in.
right.
The Traitors is like, they cast it really well. It's really diverse of interesting people. Crucially, all of whom really need the money, because there's an ultimate potential prize fund of like of 125 grand, and these people really need the money, right? They're just like normal people who need money for all the normal reasons people need money. And it's like a competition show, and the only way I can describe it for anyone who hasn't seen it is it's like a murder mystery set in a castle, and there's traitors. So there's 12 people, 3 of whom are traitors, 9 of whom are faithfuls, and the faithfuls are trying to weed out the traitors, and the traitors are like murdering the faithfuls in their sleep. It's so fun.
How do they murder them in their sleep?
You'd have to watch it to
I
find
need to
out.
watch this.
I had honestly the best fun, and kind of reminded me of, you know, when you watch like those of us who remember season 1 of Big Brother and how interesting and experimental and like cool that was. Now I need to get into Survivor, because I think I'd really like Survivor. The Traitors is so good. Everyone who watched it is obsessed with it. Everyone online was talking about it, and it was just this massive hit for the BBC, and I can't wait. I'm going to watch the American one in January, but then I can't wait to see season 2, because they're going to have to change so many format points because all the twists are gone now.
Right.
They're already talking about making a celebrity one, which I find less interesting. I know the celebrity one will still be compelling because people want to win, because people are naturally competitive. But what the celebrity versions never have is the edge of real people
there's
who
a
need
cash
real
prize,
money.
right? Yeah.
Like, you know, a woman in this show who's like got no hand because she was in a car accident, her hand was knocked off. She wants a robotic hand. That's never going to be the same as a celebrity who's already rich trying to raise money for charity.
Yeah.
Because celebrities, sorry if you didn't know, you could just donate money to charity. You don't need to go on a reality show to do it. So anyway, The Traitors, you would have loved it. I'm sorry you missed it. And absolute best crack of the year for me. Loved it.
Okay.
And Lee, friend of the podcast, you did an excellent job writing Claudia's lines.
Please come on, Lee, and talk with Kathy.
When your
at
NDA
length.
expires. He was messaging me. His NDA probably expires in like 30 years, so we'll have him on then.
Oh, excellent. Okay, see you in 30 years. Okay, my number 3 of the year is The Bear on Disney Plus in the UK and Ireland, and Hulu, I think. No, sorry, it's FX, so maybe it's on Hulu. Oh, God, I don't know.
I've no idea.
I don't know how America works. This is a show that we started together, and you said, no, this is too stressful.
Exactly like Boiling Point, the film.
Yes.
Turns out I could never be a chef.
You can't hack it in the kitchen. And I will admit I
loved it though. I just couldn't handle it.
I was like, this is really good, but it wasn't like I need to. What you know, you're watching a show, and we'll talk about some shows throughout the course of this episode where I'm like, I gotta watch all this right now,
Like
right?
The Traitors.
Like that, yeah. I didn't feel that with The Bear.
The Traitors,
was
I
like,
didn't stop to eat.
but the bear was so high. Wow, really? Are you okay? The Bear was so critically acclaimed, and I did like it, that I thought, all right, I should probably finish it, but I wasn't pulled along.
I think The Guardian had it as their number 1 of the year.
Yeah, right. And by the end, I can see why, because this is a truly wonderful show. By the time I finished the show, guys, I was in floods of tears in the last 2 episodes, and I thought,
The caveat, though, Dave cries at everything.
and I do cry at everything, but I thought this is the best show. This is my number 1. It's the best show I've seen all year. And then as time past and I was looking at all these lists, I was like, no, my number
This
one
is where
and
you
two.
need time after
Yeah,
you watch
exactly.
the show
I was
to
like,
make your list.
but The Bear, guys, I cannot recommend it enough.
It's only
and
like 6.5
It's only
hours.
8 episodes.
Or
They're
8,
only
yeah.
like half an hour long. This is a show. I should say what it's about. It's about a chef called Carmi, who is the titular bear. It's a terrible title, by the way, The Bear.
It's
But it
terrible,
does
yeah.
pay off at the end in a big way, much like Thor: Love and Thunder paid off its title at the end. But it does pay off. And it's played by Jeremy Allen White, who I had never seen before, and he is brilliant. And Ebon Moss Bacharach, who we knew from Desi, as Desi from Girls.
We were obsessed with
and
him.
is in another brilliant show, Andor, this year. And he's the two of them are, and a third person. There's 3 people who star in this. Ayo Edibiri, who I'd never seen before either. It's about a guy called Carmi who inherits. He is working. He's a brilliant chef. He's a world renowned. He's working at what is renowned as the best restaurant in the world in New York. And his brother dies, and his brother leaves him in his will their family's sandwich shop in Chicago, and it's a dirty,
By the way, I don't
grubby-
eat meat, but watching this, I want to eat one of those sandwiches.
The stuff they do with the cooking here
It
is
looks so
fantastic.
good.
And that's the starting point. And that's kind of all you need to know. This show, of all the shows I'm going to talk about today, this show presented the most real characters of anything I've seen. Like they are, it feels like you were watching a documentary. It feels like
Yeah,
you
I've
were
only
in the
watched
kitchen.
2 and I felt like that.
All of these people to me, and maybe it's because besides Ibn Masbakarak, I hadn't seen any of these people before. They just, to me, they are the characters. It is incredibly authentic, so real. None of it felt like dialogue. People are
This is why,
talking
though,
over each other in the
more
kitchen
things
like we are
should-
now.
But more things, more film and TV should cast people you don't know. I found that in White Lotus this season, there were so many actors I didn't recognise. It's lovely.
Yeah.
When you're watching a film and you know every actor, you start to see the actor and not the character. And I think for The Bear, that was a huge... Now, by the way, the star of it is actually in Shameless US, and he's huge, because I was Googling him after. But we
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know him.
Okay, yes,
We didn't know him.
yeah,
And that's where I think the strength of the White Lotus was as well. It's a wonderful thing. And the traitors, because there was no famous people or influencers. It's a wonderful thing to watch a show when you just don't know anyone.
Yeah, and,
Except
and,
for Desi from Girls, who we'll always love.
and he is so fucking good in this stuff. This show is it's really raw and beautiful. It's emotional. By the end, I cared so deeply about all of these people, and I just felt like the writing by the creator Christopher Storer felt so honest and authentic. This show is literally a revelation. It is fantastic. It is deserving of all its praise. There's going to be more, and I cannot wait for it. I want to live in that kitchen again. But it is also, it is, as Kathy described, it is incredibly stressful. It is like, there is an episode like Boiling Point that is all one take, episode 7, and it escalates. It starts from a place of happiness, and it all goes downhill in real time in 21 minutes, and it is one of the best episodes of TV you will ever watch.
Wow, okay. I might go back and watch the last one. Okay, my number 2 of the year is another one that I binged. We binged together over 2 nights, and I had so much fun with it. It's called The Resort. We watched it on Peacock.
Yeah.
It's really hard to remember all these streaming services, which is on Sky or Now TV, which we have. We watched it on Now TV, Peacock in the States. It's called The Resort. It is a very short series. It might have only had 7 or 8 episodes, and again, they were only about 40 minutes long each. It was so much fun. Dave's smiling, which makes me think it's on his list. It's a mystery.
I loved it.
It's a mystery,
It's great.
and it's got time travel. And when I say mysteries and time travels are my 2 favourite things in the whole world, they're combined here.
And it was funny.
It was so funny, and it was so fun, and it had such good hooks at the end of every episode where I was like desperate to watch the next episode. So it's made by a director called Andy Ciara, who I wasn't very familiar with, and it stars Kristen Milotti, and who is in How I Met Your Mother, and then William Jackson Harper, who is in
A Good Place.
A Good Place.
Yeah.
They are fantastic. It's a central
they,
couple.
they bring this.
They're
along.
so funny, but they both have this really magical thing that not a lot of actors have, I believe, where they both can do brilliant comedy, brilliant mystery, and brilliant sadness and depth and drama, and that's just a potent combination. There's a third actor who stole the scenes from all of them, who's called Luis Gerardo, who played the resort manager, much like in White Lotus, steals the show from everyone.
And he's clearly going to be the guy for season 2.
I think they wanted to make a season 2 with him as the through character, but I don't believe it's been commissioned.
Oh no.
But I would say if you have access to watch The Resort and you like time travel and you like mysteries, you will love this show.
And
the
it pays
setting,
off. It
really
mostly pays off. It doesn't leave too many.
It's a
loose
fully
threads.
paid off ending because they don't know if they're getting a season 2, and that's good because when there's something that's a mystery and then it's open ended, it is odious and I hate it and I want it to burn. So this is fantastic. And actually, Christine Milotti, I did not know what a good dramatic actress she was until I watched this.
God,
she's
she's
fantastic in this.
fantastic.
And her and William Jackson Harper have the most wonderful on-screen presence together. But mostly I'm recommending it because I had a whole heap of fun on a binge of it, and I recommend everyone watch it like that. So much fun.
I think that's the only binge we did this year, or besides The Traitors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proper,
Like we watched it
proper
in like
binge.
2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm excited because I'm onto my number 2, and it is Andor on Disney Plus. And I know you haven't watched that, and I don't think anything on our list has been the same. So
I think
far.
our number one's going to be
I think
the
our
same
number
then.
1 is going to be the same. But that's pretty exciting that we have such different lists. So Andor.
It's because more so than movies, we'll watch TV on our own, but we usually watch movies together.
That's true.
Yeah.
Guys, Andor is a revelation. Okay, I am
You're smiling. He's smiling right
so
now.
happy. I'm
Is it the
so
Born Star
happy
Martini
that
or is
this
it
show
Andor?
exists. I'm a little bit tipsy, but by God, this I was done with Star Wars. I was checked out, and then my God, they just pulled me back in.
I have seen tears in Dave's eyes as he's talked about the state of Star Wars. It's broken you.
Star Wars is broken. It's shite. It's all a load of shite. And we had and there are more Star Wars shows that came out this year, which I'll talk about later in less favourable terms. But it's hard to believe that that those things can exist in the same universe as Andor.
But you remember before Andor started, you were like sighing, and you were like, "Oh, here we go."
Oh, and I had no interest in Andor.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't like Rogue One. Why are they making a spin-off show with this guy? Just felt like another cash-in.
But my favorite thing about you though is you still watched it. You could never bear to not watch it.
Of course, yeah, I have to know. Kathy, I watched all of the Book of Boba Fett, and that was a bad show from the beginning. I watched it all.
Okay. And you did a full review on our Patreon about it.
And I did.
Obviously not with me.
No, I never did that. That was The Mandalorian.
Oh, sorry.
But Andor, guys, I genuinely do believe that you could sit someone down in front of this who doesn't know anything about Star Wars, or even just doesn't like Star Wars, and I think they would get something out of this because it is a standalone TV series and a brilliant TV series in its own right. I think because creator and writer Tony Gilroy came in and doesn't give a shit about Star Wars and has been very vocal about that. This is a show that is not interested in tying it into the larger narrative like so many of the other things, isn't interested in Easter eggs, isn't interested in having Darth Vader show up for no reason.
What? Darth Vader's not in this?
I know, right? Yeah. So he has told a brilliant character-driven story about what makes people rebel, and it is something that has weight in today's times. It is about creeping fascism and authoritarianism, and it's all about if you sleepwalk through that and let it happen, then it will come and get you in the end, even if you think you're safe from it, and there is no escape from that. And I think it is honestly, it is filled with some of the best dialogue I've heard on TV this year, some of the best writing, some of the most brilliant performances, and it is a show that's not about Andor.
Well, who's my top crush that's in this again?
Who is this?
The main guy.
Is he one of your top crushes?
Yeah, number one.
Really?
Up
Diego
there.
Luna?
Yeah, love him.
So guys, honestly, I think this show is tremendous, but it's also
I can't believe it's not your
exciting.
number one.
It is
Every
exciting.
week
It's
Dave
got a
was like-
heist in it. It's got a prison break. Guys,
Why is this not your number one?
because there's a better show that came out this year that I think is your number one as well. Will we say it together?
Every week when this was out, Andor, Dave would be like,
I was
Dave
so
was, like,
excited
standing
every week for Andor.
in the living room, just like when he basically would kindly say to me, "When are you going to bed?" Because I want to watch Andor.
But like Andor, it's not like House of the Dragon. Like had 2 amazing episodes, and then it had a load of rocky shite. And Andor is like, I was like, every episode I was like, how is that even better than the last one? How is this not dropping in quality at all? Like every episode is incredible, and I've heard some people say it's a bit boring at the start, it's slow to start. I say to those people, what? This was brilliant from the off, because it was like it was like setting up like I tell you, when the show won me over at the very beginning was when there was 2 security guards having a conversation, a manager and an office guy, about a murder that happened on their watch, and the other guy and the manager is just like, just let it go. It's just like, it doesn't matter, these guys were drunk, whatever. And I'm like, what? This is Star Wars. Why are we watching 2 admin guys talk about the deaths of 2 security guys? And it was just like, and from there it was just like, this show had me hooked. It was interesting, working class characters in a Star Wars universe with some of the most interesting environments and cultures that Star Wars has produced in decades. It's honestly, it's the best Star Wars thing to have the Star Wars moniker in a long time. And anyway, I'll shut up now because I can't
You
see
look so.
Kathy's
Dave's
bored.
actually kind of disturbing the other patrons of the bar at this point.
I just love it. Do we have the same number one?
Go.
Is
One.
it Severance?
It's Severance.
Yeah, of course it's
I
Severance.
wanted to do 1, 2, 3. We say it together. You
Sorry.
ruined it.
It's Severance.
It's Severance.
Severance is
Yeah.
the best show that came out this year.
Severance is
On Apple TV Plus. Guys, if any of you have not watched Severance, what's wrong with you? Get
No,
Apple
you
TV
don't say
Plus.
what's wrong with you. You say you should watch Severance.
Sorry, there's nothing wrong with you.
Dave
You're all
needs to-
fine.
Dave, you've
I'm
never
gonna
had a
calm
porn
down.
star martini before, and it's clearly
I'm gonna,
having all the right effects.
I'm going to let Kathy talk now. Tell them what Severance is about.
And it's a show I actually don't want to say too much about, because like all very, very good fantasy or sci-fi, and this is sci-fi, it has a very, very high concept, and after that you want to not tell anyone anything else and let them just discover it for themselves. So it is a TV series that was on Apple TV Plus this year, and while this may be the first Apple TV Plus show we're mentioning this year, it is by no means the first we've watched this year, and we love Apple TV Plus, right? It's got the best shows.
I got way more in my honourable mentions.
It's brilliant, right? Recommend everyone get it.
By the way, amazed that For All Mankind didn't hit.
For All Mankind was like my
didn't-
number 6.
Okay, yeah.
Before I get into Severance, though, last year on my top 5, I said I hadn't finished For All Mankind Season 2, but I said if I had, I reckon it would be in my top 5. It would have been my number 2 last year. If For All Mankind Season 2, if we'd finished it, I now know it would have been my number 2.
Okay.
Anyway, number 1 of 2022 is Severance. It is a show that I'm struggling to describe now, that is basically, if you could imagine that the protagonist, who's played by Adam Scott brilliantly, he's a brilliant actor, gets severed, right? And that means that when he goes into work at 9 a.m. every day, he gets a lift downstairs, then his normal brain, shuts off, and his other side of his brain ignites, which is his work brain. And that brain is only activated when he's in the office, right? So you have a work brain and you've got a home brain, so when he goes back up the elevator and out at the end of the day, the home brain kicks in. One is called an innie and one's called an outie.
And for all intents and purposes, they're different people.
They don't remember
They share
the other
a
one.
body, but
Yeah.
they only have their own memories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so clever. So one of them actually never sees the light of day, and while the physical body experiences things like fresh air and vitamin D, the brain doesn't. And the effect that might have on someone is very interestingly explored. What's going on? Like this company that severs people, what's happening, why would one choose to be severed, is a fantastic mystery. It throws so many great mysteries out, so many great twists. It's absolutely fantastic. It's directed by Ben Stiller, who a lot of you may recall a couple of years ago directed a show that was in at least one of our top 5s, which was Escape at Denamara.
Yeah.
Ben Stiller makes
Good show.
phenomenal TV.
And he carried Patricia Arquette over from that show.
Patricia Arquette is in
She's
Escape
this.
at Dunamara. And then the second director of the show is Eva McArdle, who's actually an Irish woman, so obviously we were dying when we realised that, because we saw her name in the credits, we're like, she has to be Irish. Severance, I actually don't want to say anything more beyond that because I want all of you to go and watch it. It's on Apple TV Plus. You can get a free subscription for a couple of weeks if you just want to test out the service or whatever. We're not on commission, despite how much we wish we were. Severance is everything I want in a show, which is like a high concept, clever sci-fi, and like the best kind of sci-fi takes humans and applies them in really extraordinary situations and shows us how these humans would interact. And you know, downstairs in the office, it's not just our main character Adam Scott, there's a load of other characters down there, and they're all trying to solve the mystery of why they've been severed. And so there's actually two mysteries.
They kind of are and they aren't.
The outies and the innies have separate mysteries,
Yeah.
and it's just so clever. Now, Dave, you tell me why Severance is your number one of the year, and I'm delighted. I don't know if we've ever had the same number one.
Well, I think it's a really interesting list this year that we had such completely different lists except for this, and I think that is a testament to how good this show is. And unlike a lot of these things, I think this show is. I think anyone could get into this.
Anyone.
And
Yeah,
I think-
I'd recommend the show to anyone. And we actually did a whole deep dive on our Patreon after we watched it, but I think anyone I know would love this show.
And
now,
I-
you might want to, like any show, give it a go after episode 1 and 2, like keep going, because I think all shows you kind of have to apply that caveat to.
I'll say about Severance what I said about my best movie of the year, which I won't spoil if you haven't listened to it yet. But in that, this show brilliantly handles comedy and drama together, but also does something which surprised me and I've never seen before.
It's
right?
really, really compellingly interesting.
And that's the thing. It's got the Black Mirror concept, and that's enough to hook you in.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's for me. I'm going to watch that.
And a lot
And
of
I
you would have
thought-
seen the visual, which is Adam Scott's head severed open with the desk on top.
There's some
Very
some
brilliant.
really good marketing around
Also,
the
we
show.
have. By the way, I didn't even mention how creatively cool the show is to look at. It's
Oh my god!
stunning.
The production design and the art direction of the show, it has created an alternate sort of reality, which
retro.
is kind of retro 70s, 80s vibes,
but futuristic.
but futuristic, and it's an aesthetic which is very interesting and fun to look at. But this show is so goddamn funny, but darkly, weirdly funny, much like my number one movie of the year. And it is unlike anything I've ever seen. But unlike like a Black Mirror, I think, which is so bleak and cynical, while also having a sort of Charlie Brooker's sort of cynical sort of sense of humour, this show is kind of like colourful and
Black Mirror had
wacky,
one nice episode, which was San Junipero.
and then the rest is just depressing.
Yeah.
And this show is the ramifications of what this central premise is depressing, and it has a character who is suffering with depression, and it is dark and it is twisted and sometimes bitter, but it is also just funny and weird,
Yeah.
and also has moments of lightness and joy in it.
It has Christopher Walken in
Christopher
it.
Walken and another character like have
Christopher
some
Walken
sweetness in it.
is in this as like the third or fourth character, and yet he's just so brilliant.
And John Turturro.
My gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to watch it again.
It is. No,
I think we should watch it again.
guys. I would watch it again. It's an incredible cast. It is also the finale is the best episode of TV that was made this year. It is the most tense hour of
It's so
television
stressful.
I've ever watched, or perhaps ever watched. It is stressful. It is, but it pays off, and they also give the right amount of payoff for a season 1 while like leaving enough
Desperate
open
for
for
a
a
season
season 2,
two,
which
yeah.
we are desperate for. I also have to say this was created by a guy called Dan Erickson, who is, I'm on his Wikipedia, he's 6 months older than me.
Does it mean anything?
I'm just
Just
getting
makes
introspective here. I'm like, if he can do it, surely I can.
No, it's okay. He's 6 months older than you. In 6 months, you could do it too.
He has, well, this is the thing.
Oh, but he did it 2 years ago.
He has no credits to his name. This
That's
is his
unbelievable.
first and only thing on his IMDb. On his Wikipedia says he wrote for Spike TV's Lip Sync Battle pre-show.
Love lip sync battle though.
He wrote for not even Lip Sync Battle. He wrote for their pre-show, and he worked in series development for the now defunct entertainment company Super Deluxe. Then in 2016, his pilot script for Severance was picked up as a writing sample at Ben Stiller's Red Hour Productions, and Stiller decided to produce the project.
Love Ben
Now,
Stiller.
Kathy, he is nominated for an Emmy. He has been named in September on Times 100 Next Emerging Leaders from Around the World Who Are Shaping the Future and Defining the Next Generation of Leadership.
Wow.
Like, a fair play to the guy, because he has produced a singular bit of work that is...
It's so unique.
Unique, is entirely in his own voice, and has been brought to life so wonderfully by Ben Stiller, Adam Scott,
Who
and
would
all
have
the
thought
team.
the guy who starred in There's Something About Mary would be one of the best TV directors of our time? Love
There
it.
you are. Well, to be fair, Ben Stiller was always into direction. He wanted to be a director before an actor.
But I'm
His
talking about There's
parents
Something
were
About Mary.
reality bites early. Okay, yeah, sure.
Anyway, love it. We will be back
We're
soon.
going to take a quick break
That
to
is our
sober
top
up.
5. We will probably be back tomorrow to talk about the rest of our honourable mentions, our most joyous moments of the year, and our worst.
And by tomorrow, we mean just wait there for a moment.
Yeah, we will
tomorrow
be back.
for us.
We will play.
You will hear some.
I think we should play something from Severance.
Yes,
Yeah.
you will hear either maybe some music from Severance.
Music,
or a
because
quick
the Severance
clip
had brilliant
of
music.
the Severance theme song.
Yeah,
Very
okay.
good. Okay, so here we go. Back in a minute.
Hello, we are back. Mere moments have passed for you. Some hours have passed for us. It's the next day. We are in the car, and we are going to talk about our feel-good / joy watches.
Can I just say, I think I might have had too many cocktails last night, so I apologise for however that's going to sound, or did sound. Certainly very excited when we were talking about Severance.
You were.
I seem to recall Kathy tried to shush me with her hands. So certainly the patrons of the bar were maybe they'll go away and watch Severance. Maybe something good will have come.
I hope so. I mean, there was no spoilers. Okay, so my feel-good joy watch, much like our new category in our movie one, which is best cinematic experience, I wanted to do this one for like a very specific reason of a very specific show, which is, if you know me, Dave, which you do, you'll know that
Yeah.
approximately season 3 of Sex and the City was one of my most joyous and probably best TV experiences of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm always chasing that high. And what I love about Sex and the City specifically is following a group of friends, their complex relationships, and
I know what
also
you're gonna say.
dating, really funny dating scenarios, right?
Can I guess what the show is?
You can guess, yeah.
Is it Uncoupled?
It's Uncoupled, which is a new Darren Star show, the guy who made Sex City, on Netflix this year, starring Neil Patrick Harris. And this show made me so happy this year. I watched most of it on my own before dragging Dave in to watch the end of it because I knew he'd really like it. And we.
Hang on, you didn't drag me.
No, I don't mean drag, as in I got you to start watching it with
Yeah,
me.
but that implies that I was reluctant.
No,
was
I
like,
just mean
yeah,
you
great.
were watching it and I was like,
Yeah.
it's episodic, you can just jump in.
And it's excellent. I watched the last 2 or 3 episodes.
So good, right?
Really good.
It's like Neil Patrick Harris is a star, but there's other characters of his, primarily gay men, but some women. And basically, like, just based on the first episode and the description of the show, what it is it's a guy in his kind of late 40s, 50s who lives in New York. He's gay. He's been in a relationship for like decades. And this show follows him after being in a long-term relationship and being fresh on the dating scene in New York. And it is it's a true sequel for Sex and the City, I think. If you like Sex and the City, you'll really like the show. Give it a few episodes because it gets really good. I loved being around the characters. I loved the dating scenarios as they unravelled. And just like that, which is the Sex and the City sequel, was my worst TV show of last year. This is so much better than And Just Like That.
Did Darren Star make that as well?
Don't know.
Sorry to catch you off.
Anyway, I really recommend. I don't know. I really recommend Uncoupled on Netflix. If you haven't watched it already, I don't know if they've confirmed a season 2, but I really hope they make one. So that's a really feel good show for me. And then another one in a similar vein, but a younger group of people, I just started watching actually on the RTE player, which is the only show I think either of us have watched on RTE this year. but it's an American show, and Mindy Kaling is the executive producer, and it's called Sex Life or Sex Lives of College Girls, and it's about 4 people who've just started university, 4 girls, and kind of their lives on campus. And I really like their relationship. I love all the dating and sex stuff in this as well. So I think if you like Sex and the City, watch Uncoupled and watch Sex Lives of College Girls. They're great fun. I had 2 more feel-good joy watches.
Sorry, can I just say, if this was the 80s or 90s, that title would be on a dodgy VHS tape.
I know, yeah.
That you would see at the back of a video store.
I feel like one of the characters must be based on Mindy Kaling. She's like an Indian American wannabe comedy writer. I love her. She's probably the best character in it. The other feel-good show that Dave and I both watched this year is Girls 5 Eva.
Yeah, that's on my Joy Watch.
Oh,
as well.
good.
Yeah.
It's a really fun sitcom about a girl band from the 90s who are now trying to get back together. They're called Girls 5 Eva, and there's such funny songs in this, and we've just really enjoyed it. We kind of binged 2 seasons of it this year. It's on Peacock.
Yeah. It'll be in your head forever. The songs are brilliant. The comedy is good. This is Tina Fey is involved with this in the background, and it is I think this is the spiritual successor to 30 Rock. I don't think it maybe quite reaches the highs of that show, but it's got that same weird offbeat sort of comedy, really funny one-liners, really great characters, really tight 20-minute episodes. It's really, really strong. Best sort of traditional sitcom type of comedy I've seen this year.
And so Peacock made the first 2 seasons, but then Netflix have picked it up for a 3rd season, so I think it's just going to go from strength to strength, to be honest. Okay, my final feel-good joy watch, what a laugh, the Neighbours finale. So as someone who we both watched this, as someone who watched Neighbours a lot when I was a kid and hadn't watched it literally for decades, I briefly dipped back into it when I was on maternity leave a few times. What a laugh we had watching this. So many of the characters were blatantly not on screen together, i.e. Kylie and Jason. Blatantly a lot of the characters were...
Sorry, they were on screen together, but they weren't on screen with anybody else.
Blatantly loads of people were social distancing.
Guy Pearce. Was Guy Pearce with them?
Guy Pearce, I can't remember, but he was definitely social distancing from someone that he was supposedly embracing. It was so funny.
And these people are just so there were loads of reverse shots where it'd be they'd be waving to somebody across the way, or Kylie and Jason would be looking on from a balcony, so they're clearly in a different state or country. Or
people who died came back as ghosts, and people who were too famous to bother coming back at all, aka Margot Robbie, was on a TV screen chatting to them all. It was so fun. If you ever watch Neighbours, you'd have really enjoyed it. What slightly ruined it now is that Amazon are bringing Neighbours back.
Yeah, I saw that. So I was what's the point?
And also...
But in a way, maybe all the buzz and doing that and its death kind of saved it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but everyone will go back.
Because it got such good buzz.
Yeah, but there wasn't enough people watching it. There's a reason it was cancelled. So everyone will come back for the new series for an episode I will, and then be okay, I'm done now.
Yeah, I'm done. Also, Prime is not the place for Neighbours. It's just the kind of thing. I feel that was
it's daytime
appointment
TV.
viewing. It's daytime TV appointment viewing. Oh, I'll watch Neighbours is on. I'll watch that. Do you know what I mean? It's or it would have had its regular watchers. I just don't think it fits in the streaming era. Maybe I'm wrong.
Where it does fit is in my joyous moments of this year, where I've never been so happy to watch such a ludicrous piece of television. Dave, what is your feel-good joy watches?
Yeah, I've got one more. So Girls 5 Eva, and then the other one is Reboot. This is another. This is from. Sorry, I'm driving. I don't have the guy's name to hand, but it was from the creator of Modern Family. This is his newest show. It is a traditional sitcom. It's not as smart or as funny as just outright wow, this is incredibly funny as Girls 5 Eva, but it is a very solid, like Modern Family. I think it is a broad mainstream kind of comedy, but that is just kind of warm and welcoming and has a lot of familiar tropes and characters, but is good, and it's certainly better than something like The Big Bang Theory maybe, or something that's just the incumbent that's just really phoning it in series after series. I think
that's because it's season 1 though. They all phone it in eventually.
Yeah, true, but true. I know Modern Family kind of went that way as well. But but I think this show is better than it has to be. It is trying really hard to be meta, to be clever.
Would we explain the premise?
Go on. Sorry. Yeah.
So it's on Disney Plus and or presumably Hulu in the States, and It's about a 90s sitcom that's being rebooted to be like more modern, and they've brought back the original stars, and all the actors are great. Really recommend. Can't remember any of the actors' name off the top of my head.
So you've got Johnny Knoxville,
Yeah.
you've got Keegan-Michael Key, you've got Judy Greer. It's a good cast.
And the guy from Mad About You.
Paul Reiser.
All right, like,
yeah, it's a good
proper
cast.
Sitcom heavy hitter as well in him. And like it's really good, it's really polished. It also has what we love, which is like it's set in Hollywood, and it's like set in a studio a lot, and it's all like in the writer's room, seeing like they've really good scenes with, they've got like the old fashioned writers and then the new like woke writers, and they're trying to write jokes.
And some of it's kind of obvious, but it's funny. It is funny.
It's really funny watching
likeable.
like, say like a 19-year-old like gay woman versus like a 60-year-old traditional writer's room white man or whatever, and like the conversations they have in the writing room. I think it's really good. This is a good choice. I forgot about this one.
But what I also like about it is it's warm and kind of, you know, a little bit saccharine. But it's a joy watch, right? It's like, it's not amazing, but it's like we are happily putting it on week after week when it's on, just to have something kind of nice and easy to watch. So yeah, I'd recommend it if you just want something light and breezy.
And if anyone remembers, the Modern Family pilot was brilliant and kind of pulled the rug out from under us. This pilot does something a little bit similar, which I enjoy.
Yeah. So that's Reboot on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and we will be back in a moment with our honourable mentions, our most disappointing, our guilty pleasures, and our bad.
Yeah, so see you in a minute.
And you'll be hearing from our patrons on all their amazing recommendations as well, because our patrons have the best taste in TV, and we take most of our recommendations from them.
It's true. And also you're going to hear a load of TV shows that we haven't even watched. Better Call Saul. I know you're all screaming like, well, what about Better Call Saul? Well, we haven't watched it, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
It's too much of it now. 6 seasons.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Neighbors should be there for one another. That's when good neighbors become good friends.
Hi, we're back. We've parked up. We're going for a walk. It's quite a day we're having.
It is. We promise that this is the last setting we'll be recording in, but we do like to have as much motion in these as possible.
Yes.
As
moving.
many scenes.
Yeah, so we're either driving, walking, or we're in a bar and the room is moving. Okay, so we're going to do our honourable mentions. So these are the shows that didn't crack our top 5 but we think are good.
And that we reckon you guys should watch if you haven't already.
Yeah. Go, Kathy.
Okay.
What you got?
First of all, I have to say, forgot to say last night, White Lotus theme, biggest banger of the year. I can't go a day without singing the White Lotus theme. I won't.
Kathy does a really good impression of it.
I might do it at the end of the podcast, but as I'm still kind of breathless from COVID, if I do it now, I won't be able.
It'll knock you out.
It'll knock me out.
But it's quite something.
I'll
guys.
do it at the end.
I hope you're okay to treat everyone to your White Lotus music impression.
I want to mention For All Mankind Season 3. As I mentioned, Season 2 of For All Mankind would have been my number 2 last year. Absolutely phenomenal TV. Season 3 was still phenomenal TV, and I recommend For All Mankind on Apple Plus to everyone. It just didn't live up to Season 2, which is why it didn't make my list, but it's still fantastic, and I can't wait for Season 4.
It's on. So I'll just talk about it. So that's on my list as well. I think it is definitely a step down in quality as from the previous.
But it's
seasons.
kind of nearly unfair to say, because it's just that Season 2 is probably one of the best
Season 2 is
of a
the
show
best
I've ever
season,
seen.
but it's not even as good as Season 1, if I'm honest. And I think the problem, I think it's still such a good show that
brilliant.
it is it's still very high caliber and good. But if you told me at the beginning of the year that For All Mankind won't crack your top 5, I would have said no way. And so I think it's disappointing that it kind of stepped back a bit. And I think part of the problem is they tried to go bigger with the stakes, bigger with the events, and it actually made it end up feeling a bit silly and small. And much like Season 2, there's, you know, they maintain a storyline which was, we were okay with it in Season 2, but people had problems with it, but it got more ridiculous, and they added to it, and there's a whole thread in Season 3 which is it kind of just ruins the show. There's a character, there's a character and a plot which just feels wrong in this show, and it's bad.
But the show's brilliant. Like, we're recommending it to people. They're just nitpicks.
Yeah. No, it's not a nitpick. There's about a third of the
Okay,
show which I
stop.
hate.
Okay. Yellow Jackets. We watched earlier this year on Sky
I got
Atlantic.
this one too.
It's not HBO though. I can't remember who it is in the States, but it's not HBO. Anyway, Yellow Jackets, it might be Showtime, I think, is fantastic TV. Brought us back Christina Ricci and Juliette Moore as grown-ups. It's about a load of girls who were in a plane crash in the 90s on a school trip, and then we kind of flash back between the 90s and the present. And actresses at both ends of the age spectrum are phenomenal, absolutely brilliant TV, and I think there's another season coming.
Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis,
Yeah.
Sorry, not Juliette Moore, Juliette Lewis. And I can't wait to watch the next season.
Yeah, I've got this on my list as well. And I've got, it's icy here. Oh, wow. Careful. I'm actually going to mention 3 shows here because Yellow Jackets, The Resort, which I think was on your top 5, right? And 1899 are 3 shows that are all doing the Lost mystery box thing. And I think they are very much, there are elements of all those shows which owe something to Lost, you know, a plane crash from Yellow Jackets, mysterious, like, you know, survivors in a mysterious setting, flashbacks and flash forwards, and 1899 is doing something very similar, and the Resort as well, twisty time travel sort of mystery. I think, you know, in the wake of Lost, we got a load of those shows trying to do that, like flash forward and a load of those things, and none of them really hit the mark. So I think Yellow Jackets, I think, is the best of best mystery box show I've seen in a while. I think the Resort also up there. 1899 I'll talk about in my most disappointing in a minute. So you go, Kathy.
Okay, brilliant. Dave's a Lost stan, for anyone who doesn't know.
Love Lost. Might be my favourite TV show of all time.
She-Hulk. We both probably nearly should have been in the Joy Watch. Actually, we both had so much fun watching She-Hulk on Disney Plus this year. It had a lot of criticism around the CGI and how kind of weird it looked. I agree. I don't think the CGI is very good. But what I really liked about the show was, first of all, Tatiana Maslany, who is one of the best actresses out there. She was the star of Orphan Black, which is the show we loved. She's absolutely brilliant in this.
She's fantastic in this show.
It's half-hour sitcom style, case of the week style, funny stuff going on. It's very meta, and I really enjoyed it.
And they
totally
didn't shy away
recommend
from the
She-Hulk.
meta stuff. So
No.
while we're on that, I'll just list off the... Because I saw all the Marvel stuff this year, unsurprisingly. And it was a mixed bag, for sure. So we had and I don't think any of it was great. None of it would even threaten to come near my top 5.
No way. Like, WandaVision was in my top 5 last year.
Exactly.
But She-Hulk should have been on my Joy Watch list. It's a Joy Watch.
So I gotta say, I mean, really, the Disney Plus Marvel stuff, it's really not great. Okay, there's as a whole, since
just too much of it
WandaVision,
again.
there's too much of it, but it's all very just average and bland. And
She-Hulk's not bland.
She-Hulk is the best of them, and I think Miss Marvel had a really charming lead performance. And
So was Miss Marvel on your...
yeah, it's on my honourable mentions.
Honourable
They're all
mentions,
kind of
yeah.
fine. Moon Knight is on a lot of people's worst of
what?
the year when you're the patrons.
That was this year.
Yeah, that was this year as well.
I'm obsessed
And
with
I
Oscar
think-
Isaac. He's like my number one crush, and I can't watch this show. And he's playing 2 different people in it.
It's not a great show, but I think his performance, he commits. He's really good. And by the end of the show, I was like, why am I wasting my time? This is the problem with this Marvel stuff.
This is your problem. I'll always watch the first episode and then I'll bow out. Like, I watched also Mrs. Marvel, which I thought was fine. But like, again, I'll be like, that's fine. But you have this feeling where you have to complete them, and I don't know why you
and
do
this is
that.
the problem. When they were movies, I was happy to just go along, and you know, even if they were average, it was just like, okay, 2 hours of my time. Now you're sucking 6 to 8 hours of my time, Marvel, and I'm not happy because you're also doing the movie. You're doing more of the movies. You're doing even more TV shows, and they are of poorer quality. So I feel like overall, you're losing me, guys.
Yeah, but
really
you just
losing.
need to make a New Year's resolution to yourself where you won't watch a full series if you're not enjoying it.
Yeah, but they're kind of just they're okay.
You can't help yourself.
And you got to watch something. Anyway,
You can't quit them.
Back to you. What else you got on your list?
Okay, I also have After Party, which is another show we watched on Apple TV Plus.
So good.
Which is so good. It's a murder mystery set during the after party of a high school reunion, and kind of every episode is a different character's point of view on their kind of whereabouts during the murder, and there's a detective kind of interrogating them all. It's great fun. If you like Glass Onion or Knives Out or anything like that, you'll have loads of fun with After Party. It's properly funny. It's also got some really funny songs and like a brilliant cast, none of whose names I remember right now. But yeah, brilliant. I really, really recommend After Party.
It's got a great...
every episode is a different genre
that's
as well.
That's the hook I was about to say. So
every
this is by,
it's
by
genre.
Lord and Miller, who are my two favourite film and TV creators at the moment. And that's the hook. So the way in which each of the suspects tells their accounts is in a different movie genre. So you get a thriller, you get a musical... with Ben, what's his name, who voiced Sonic the Hedgehog, and Ben Schwartz, which is the best episode. You get a rom-com.
Brilliant. And each
one
one
of
does
them is
the genre.
animated. And
each one does its genre perfectly.
yes, so
You've got a high-speed chase episode.
Yeah, it's just very, very funny and clever, and also what you want to know from any murder mystery show before you get into it. Does it have satisfying payoff? And yes, it does.
And Tiffany Haddish plays the cop, and she's brilliant.
Yeah, she's great fun.
I really enjoy that. Okay, other things that are on my list that you haven't mentioned already. A League of Their Own, I didn't finish, but it's a TV series based on the movie, which is on Amazon. But it explores characters that the movie didn't, so LGBTQ characters and black characters, and it's obviously really much more of a deep dive than the film was. It's like my favourite film of all time, and I really like the TV series. I just haven't finished it, so I couldn't put it on another list.
Are they the same characters
No.
that Gina Davis played? Or
No.
all them? They're just brand new.
They're brand new. They're just women who are in the All-American
Got
League.
it, okay. Is it the same team? Or
That I don't
Okay.
know. Then another one that I liked but haven't finished, so couldn't put on a list, is Bad Sisters. It's a brilliant show. It's made by Sharon Horgan. I just find it really stressful, and I actually took a break from it because I can't handle stressful things at the moment. But it's a brilliant show. It's on Apple TV+. If you like Sharon Horgan and you like murder mysteries and it's Irish, and as usual, the best Irish TV shows not made by the Irish national broadcaster.
Yeah, this is on Apple TV. I've got
All
this
the best
one.
Irish shows are not made in Ireland, or made by Irish broadcasters.
Father Ted. A lot of people don't know that Father Ted was not made by the Irish.
Normal People was made by the BBC.
Well, it was made by Irish people, but it was funded by Channel 4. Normal People, BBC. But I had Bad Sisters on my list as well. Yeah, we haven't finished it. I intend to finish it, but I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's really good.
The cast of characters are great. I love all the sisters. The villain is like almost ridiculously villainous, like he's twirling a mustache.
That's what was stressing me. He was too awful that I was getting upset watching him.
But he's hissably hateable,
Yeah,
and
he's
the
brilliant.
the English actor that plays him is very good at it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Another show that I really enjoyed this year, and we actually did weekly episodes over on our Patreon for this, and we've already mentioned it. It's The Rings of Power. I'm not a Lord of the
I've
Rings
got this as well.
gal. Like Dave's really into Lord of the Rings.
I'm a Lord of the Rings gal.
And I found this at times slow, but I found it so beautiful to look at. I loved the main actress, Galadriel.
Morfydd Clark.
And who, if you haven't watched Rings of Power, she is the actress who starred in St. Maud, which is a film we both loved a couple of years ago. Probably was on one of our lists. I really enjoyed Rings of Power, and I loved watching it every week. And it was really just interesting the way it was airing the same time as House of the Dragon, comparing them. Visually, this show looked 100 times better than House of the Dragon.
Well, it has a lot more money involved
But House
invested
of the Dragon
in it.
is a lot of money as well, though. It made House of the Dragon look cheap.
True, but Rings of Power is like the money's on the screen.
Yeah.
It looks great. Yeah, the cast is great. I've got this on my list as well, and it's funny. I considered this or House of the Dragon, but I think House of the Dragon overall's just got a bit more meat on its bones.
But only at the end, towards the middle, we were like, because we were just actively comparing them because we were watching them at the same time. Towards the middle, we were like, Lord of the Rings has got more going for it.
Yeah. We were flip-flopping
Yeah.
a lot, but I think Rings of Power it's a bit sort of all over the place sometimes from a storytelling point of view. It is.
Doing a lot though in 7 episodes.
It's trying to do, some of it was a bit hammy, but also I like what I liked is the earnestness of it. It was very old school fantasy. There's good and there's evil, and there's no real nuance or like Lord of the Rings, or sorry, where Game of Thrones, where just everyone is kind of horrible. So it was nice to be back in Middle Earth. It looked amazing.
Excellent Sauron stuff in that though, or should I say Sauron? So yeah, House, that's on mine. I've only got one more actually, which is The Patient, which is a show we're watching on Disney Plus, starring Steve Carell and Donald Gleeson.
Which is airing on Hulu. It's from FX, God knows, in the States.
We're really enjoying that, but all the episodes aren't out here yet, so that we're really enjoying it. It's basically Steve Carell. It's good. Steve Carell is a psychotherapist, and Donald Gleeson is his patient, and actually I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't want to give anything away. Yeah, and there's a very interesting dynamic
setting which forces them to be confined together.
And
I've got that on my list as well. I'm really enjoying that week to week. They're just two great actors having it off, and it's from the creators of The Americans, which was a brilliant show, which we have not finished but we did like. Right, I've got a few other things on my list. I've got Peacemaker from James Gunn. So this is a spin-off from his The Suicide Squad, which was my number one movie last year.
Really?
Yeah, I absolutely loved that movie.
I actually remember now. I'm equally as shocked now as I was then.
Yeah, I loved that movie. And I'm a big fan of James Gunn, and I'm excited that he is taking over the creative seat of the DC universe, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do with that. And I'm enjoying all the drama with Henry Cavill and all this stuff in the background. It's like, and The Rock, and it's like, it's fantastic. Watching the DC universe from behind the scenes.
Yeah, but back to the Peacemaker though.
But Peacemaker is a really, really good TV show. So John
It is good.
Cena,
I watched an episode, enjoyed it.
John Cena is...
By the way, can we say John Cena followed us on Twitter?
Yes,
and
he did.
It was the best moment of my life.
It was very exciting, but he also follows 500,000 people or something.
But one of those 500,000
and
is
it's clearly his PR people just running.
One of those 500,000 is us.
Yeah, the Cinemile, as followed by John Cena. But he was one of the best parts of the Suicide Squad, and so this is a show that follows on directly after the actions of that movie. So I recommend watching the movie, watching the show.
It should be your top show of the year.
No, it's very, very good, but it's nowhere near the level of those top fives. What I really like about this show is that it's got James Gunn's brand of over-the-top comic violence and juvenile humour, but also it's kind of sincere and sweet, and it has. I'm saying it now, and I know you talked about the White Lotus theme song. This has the best opening credits of any other show.
It does. They're really
year.
good. Yeah.
Google, if you're not familiar with it, go to YouTube. Just write Peacemaker opening credits. Job done. It's got a choreographed dance routine and an incredible
so
80s hair metal.
John Cena is such a good comic actor, and he's
very enjoyable.
The piss out of himself, and he's got phenomenal taste in podcasts.
yeah, he does personally, because he's always looking for new people to follow.
Well, I immediately DM'd him after he followed us. He's not written back yet. Watch this space.
He'd be like, "Oh, thanks, Kathy. Huge fan of your work at the Cinemile."
I mean, he's obviously listening right now. Like, John, you have an open invite to come on the podcast.
Yeah, come on, John. Fly over to Ireland, walk around Cork with us.
Come
we'll
to the Gay
go
Cinema.
for cocktails and buy you a porn star martini.
You know he doesn't drink or eat sugar. So
no,
that would be out.
I know from his Twitter account.
A vodka and soda.
He tweets inspirational quotes. All right, few other things. Stranger Things season 4. I'm surprised you didn't mention this.
Oh, that's on a different list.
Oh, nice. Okay, so
we did review this over on our Patreon as well.
We did. We spoke about it at length. I'm going to give it an honourable shout out. I think I have a mixed relationship with this show. I thought the first season was extraordinary. I think the second and third seasons were a complete waste of time. I think it's a show that was really just going nowhere for a long time, and I think season 4 they finally shook up the formula, introduced a good villain, really good villain, and it created it's such an iconic pop culture moment with the Kate Bush music. Great use of that song, which shot her into fame with a generation that wasn't
Never
aware
heard
of
of
her, so which I think is always great. However, classics are introduced to a new generation. It's great for that exposure, and earned her millions of extra money.
Do you think
and
at the
she's
start
awesome.
of 2022, okay, I know Kate Bush knew she was going to be featured in Stranger Things. We never
Yeah.
quite know how these things are going to take off. Do you think at the start of 2022, Kate Bush and Louis Theroux were like, this is it. This is the year we'll make the most money we've ever made off our music.
Louis Theroux was the biggest surprise. I'm sure Kate Bush might have predicted it.
You have to sing the Louis Theroux song now that we've mentioned it.
How's it go?
Money
Mine don't jiggle, jiggle. It folds.
You make me want to wiggle, wiggle. Folk show.
It's a banger. It's an absolute banger. But yeah, I think the use of Running Up That Hill in that contextual moment, it is one of the greatest TV moments of this year.
You know, that's like
for sure.
that's the golden ticket to get your song to go viral, though. It's not just that it's in it, it's that it's integral to the plot.
Exactly.
And
because
it's also continually used for that reason.
Yeah,
it's not even a one-off.
It has a very good reason to be in it.
Yeah, and the characters are listening to it, crucially.
Yeah. So it was a great bit of TV. Stranger Things Season 4, some fantastic moments. I'm sure you're going to talk about all the negatives, which I agree with. It is too long. It is indulgent. It's kind of pointless in many places. But I will applaud them for kind of doing something a bit different and kind of getting it right.
Okay.
I think, for the most part. I've got a few others here. The Dropout that you've already spoken about, but I thought was
I forgot
fantastic.
to say about The Dropout. I think I actually forgot to say, Amanda Seyfried, what was so brilliant about her performance is that Elizabeth Holmes is someone who you could easily mimic. Like, I could do an Elizabeth Holmes right now. She puts on a weird, deep voice. She has a look which is like red lipstick.
I'm going to give you 6 out of 10 for that.
Black turtleneck. Like, she's very easy to caricature. She's like a villain, a comedy villain. But Amanda Seyfried did her as a human. And
Yeah.
that was what was amazing about her performance.
But what I liked is the show and Amanda Seyfried's performance dimensionalized Elizabeth Holmes and sort of dug into why she would have
They didn't
been like
sympathise
this.
with her, but they dug in.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't let her off the
She's
hook.
still a bad guy,
It
like.
never lets her off the
Yeah.
hook, and it makes it very clear that she could have gotten out of that at any point, and she is responsible for her actions.
But it also really portrays how bad Sunny was, her partner.
Oh, it doesn't leave either of them
Yeah,
off the
exactly.
hook.
Yeah.
But like you said so perfectly last night, this show it gives you something that you don't get with a podcast or a book.
Uh-huh.
It gives you, those moments of a
dancing
fictionalized
together.
imagining of those two in their personal moments.
What do you think dance scene of the year has to be those two dancing?
Oh my God!
I've never
so
seen anything like
awful.
it. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. Okay, a few others I'll mention. His Dark Materials finally came back for season 3. It's all available, and I have a podcast where we watch every episode.
I always forget you have that podcast.
With Empire's Helen O'Hara. So if you want to listen to me talk about each episode of His Dark Materials, it's called His Darker Materials. Just put that into your search bar. And me and Helen got to meet loads of the cast and crew. So we've finally got James McAvoy on this
It's amazing.
this season. We've got the writer Jack Thorne and loads of other people.
Sorry that you have so many celebrity friends from your other podcast, but this podcast has John Cena.
Yeah, John, hook us up. I'll do a Peacemaker podcast with you, John. Just call me. But this show is, I think that third book. This is an adaptation of the Philip Pullman books. That third book is really tricky to
When I read
adapt.
that book and you
It's
told me it was
mad.
going to be a TV show, I was like, that's not actually
you're like,
possible.
and there are things in there where you're like, how are they going to do that? And I think they did the best job of bringing that to life as they could. This show has some fantastic performances from Daphne Keenan and Amir Wilson, the two sort of now pretty much adult stars because so much time has passed. And Ruth Wilson and James McAvoy's great, but Ruth Wilson is still the standout. If I was to pick the best on-screen villain of the year, it's going to be Ruth Wilson's
Was
Mrs.
it also
Coulter
because you got
again.
to meet her in real life in London?
I mean, yeah,
One of the best moments of
Yeah,
your life.
yeah. She was a great, lovely person, but also No, but seriously, Kathy, you're not watching the show, but if you just watched it for Ruth Wilson's Mrs. Coulter,
I
it's
watched
worth it for
season
that
1
alone.
though. I think my problem is just I really liked season 1, but I have read the book, so I often don't tend to watch adaptations, and just when it's such a good adaptation like this one and you know the plot.
It is good. I think this is the definitive adaptation of this show, of this book. A few animated things I watched this year, which I loved. Season 3 of Bluey came out. I've only watched one episode with the boys so far, but it's on a few of our patrons as best of the year.
Yeah, and Kobe had it on his best of the year.
Kobe Amanaka, friend of the podcast. It's lovely. Oh my god! And we've only watched one episode, and the dad is playing a game with the kids, and I've been playing it with the kids every day since. They loved it.
I love the show.
The dad pretends he was born yesterday, and then the kids have to explain everything to him. Guys, just try playing that with your own young kids. It's fantastic to hear their explanations of everything in the world, and they kind of love being the authority and being in power and explaining things
I need to play that with
the adults.
I love when Elliot, our 2-year-old, when you ask him something, he say, "I like that," and you say, "Why?" and he says, "Because I like that." He's like, "What are you asking me?"
Yeah. On the flip side, I saw a few more adult animated things. Rick and Morty came back for season 6. I thought another pretty strong season. I think it's a show that is kind of
It used to always be in your top 5.
struggling. Yeah, it's nowhere near my top 5. I think it's a little bit hit and miss, but it's still just incredibly clever and meta and funny and made me laugh. The Legend of Vox Machina is an animated show from the makers of Critical Role, which is a Twitch/YouTube live play Dungeons and Dragons show, which I got into in lockdown when I learned how to play Dungeons and Dragons and became obsessed with that. But this is, if you're into fantasy, you don't need to know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. If you're into fantasy in any way, this is a really fun and entertaining animated fantasy show. It's really funny as well and has great characters. But for me, the standout animated show of the year for me was Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3. This is a show that I think has gotten better and better as its series have gone on. It really knows its own voice. It loves Star Trek. It's like a fan service show, but without being just, pointless Easter eggy and things, because it's very much doing its own thing. It is a funny animated sitcom in the Star Trek universe that
It looks good as well.
pays reverence. It's just a great sitcom with lovely characters, and is the best Star Trek thing to be produced in years, if you ask me. Brackets, I have not seen Strange New Worlds, don't at me. Then a couple of other things. I finally got into The Boys this year. Season 3 came out. I think season 3 is not as good as the other 2 seasons, but this is a really great show. I love it. Roar was a thing I'm surprised you didn't mention.
Roar! Oh my gosh, that's an anthology on Apple TV Plus, again, who we wish were sponsoring us, and it was really fun. Loads of fun.
Really good. All
kind of like Black
female
Mirror-y.
focused, high concept Black Mirror things. Mixed bag like any anthology show, but some good stuff in there.
There's a really good one about a woman who is a trophy wife, and she's actually just
she's literally a trophy.
She sits on a shelf all day.
It's funny.
It's really weird. It's written based on a short story written by Celia Ahern, the Irish author.
Yes, were they all written by her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like have really famous people in it, like Nicole Kidman's the star of one, Issa Rae's the star of one. There's a really fun one where all these women can bring their husbands back and trade them in for different husbands. Like, there's very fun little ideas in them, isn't there? And they're all only about half an hour. Nicole Kidman eats photos in her one and then relives the memories.
Yeah,
it's fun.
There's some. It's worth a look.
Yeah.
They're good. Couple of other things. I don't know if this was this year, but I watched it this year. It's Foundation Series 1 on Apple TV Plus. Really excellent sci-fi adaptation of an Isaac Asimov novel starring Jared Harris, who's always great. The Tourist is a show we watched at the very beginning of the year.
At the start of I forgot. I'm so glad we're doing this together. At the start of the year when we watched The Tourist, I said to Dave, that's going to be in my top 5. And here I am forgetting about it.
Would you revise it now? I don't think it would crack my top 5. But
it's in my top 10.
Top 10 maybe.
The Tourist is fantastic.
It's really, really
Another
good.
mystery show. There's a lot of mysteries on this year. starring Jamie Dornan, who's absolutely brilliant.
This is one of Jamie Dornan's best performances.
And who's the actress? She's an Aussie actress.
I've got her here. She's Danielle McDonald.
Oh my gosh, she's incredible.
She's the absolute
MVP.
The MVP of this
The Tourist,
show.
and I think it was only 6 episodes, and it was a brilliant start to the year on TV.
Yeah, so it's about
All
a
set in
man
Australia.
who wakes up in the Australian outback with no memory, and he
So
has
good.
to piece everything together.
Yeah.
And it's just, do you know, it's very Tarantino-esque. I think it's got that sort
I disagree because he's not my vibe.
Okay, but you'll admit it's got that sort of, sort of gangster comic book violence and
It definitely
ridiculous
is a character.
hitman characters.
As you say
and
he's straight out of
it's super
Yeah.
Tarantino-esque, but it's funny and
And it's also
clever.
got really good Aussie humour.
Yeah, great dialogue, brilliant performances. Really recommend it. I don't know how you watch that, but just search The Tourist. And a couple of other ones. The Staircase is something we got obsessed with. I don't know if you're going to mention that later on.
Oh no,
with Colin Firth
The Stair. I totally forgot.
and Tony Collette.
The adaptation of the kind of hit Netflix documentary. It's a really good show. The reason I didn't end up putting it on a list, even though I really enjoyed it, was because I felt
We felt
icky.
awful at the end.
We
I
felt
agree.
icky because neither of us are into true crime, and it's a real woman, and
it goes into explicit,
extreme
gory
detail. And we turned on the
recreating
documentary
things.
afterwards because we were like, it's interesting to see how someone's turned a documentary into a film. They're both sitting on the documentary's on Netflix. So we turned it on, and that's really gory as well. And I just thought, could we not let this woman rest in peace? And I felt icky. The HBO show is brilliant.
But I will say, we weren't familiar with the story. We had not seen the documentary
Mm-hmm.
series. So it was our first time experiencing the twists and turns of it.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And my God, it is stranger than fiction stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, they're every 2 episodes something would happen and we're like, wait a second, what?
And Tony Collette and Colin Firth are brilliant on screen together.
They are both excellent actors, but yes, I agree. We both felt a little bit like we needed a shower
Yeah, we felt icky.
after
Arnold
watching it.
Schwarzenegger's son is in it as well, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, Patrick Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Pretty good performance as well.
There's just moments when you just see it in the eyes, how like his dad he looks, and that was thrilling.
Yeah.
Sadly, he's not like an action hero with an Austrian accent.
I'm afraid not. So I've got 3 things from Disney Plus to finish us out. I've got Hit Monkey, another animated show which I really, really enjoyed, an adaptation of it. It's a monkey who's a hitman, and Jason Sudeikis voices guys, I just check it out. It's really fun, and I enjoyed it from beginning to end. Very hyper violent, over the top comic book action. The Light and Magic, a documentary series about industrial light and magic on Disney Plus, is a brilliant watch if you love movies and movie magic. Just getting under the skin of it all with the people that created Star Wars and went on to redefine how cinema is made. This is, I think, an absolute must-watch. It's really well put together and really interesting. And then lastly, Obi-Wan, so the other Star Wars show that came out this year, kind of borderline, I think.
We have a full review of this on our main feed.
Yeah, go listen to my full thoughts on it. But I will say, it's not an amazing show. It clearly should have been a movie. But Ewan McGregor is so good as Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's great to see him back on screen, and I honestly did enjoy. I mean, this is the opposite of Andor in that it is just has no reason to exist except it's recognisable IP filled with Easter eggs and is just fan service end to end. And doesn't really add it much to the story of the wider Star Wars thing. But I did enjoy watching him face off with Darth Vader, and I did end up crying a little bit at the end. But I think that's something. Clearly, I'm broken. I don't recognise this as a slam dunk TV show, but it had some good moments, and it was just great to see Ewan McGregor being Obi-Wan Kenobi
it's good
again.
You enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did.
And if you guys like listening to us talking about all this TV stuff, we actually do an episode every month on Patreon where it's called What We've Been Watching, and we just go through the good, bad, and the ugly that we've been watching. But speaking of our patrons, who I have mentioned have the best taste in film and TV, we're going to go through some of their recommendations for the year because we think you guys will like them.
Yes, so
Hold while we find the notes. So Thomas Huxley has recommended Derry Girls Season 3. We are terrible Irish people. We do not watch Derry Girls. We will try and get into it. He's also
That was
recommended...
the season finale of that, right? As
yeah,
well, that
yeah.
last
Everyone's
season,
saying
yeah.
it's brilliant. He's recommended a few we've already recommended, but then at the end he has Slow Horses, season 1 and 2. We started...
Is there a second season of that?
Apparently.
Wow.
We started that, never quite got into it.
It's because Kathy didn't like Gary Oldman's socks, and that was the reason we stopped watching.
Tobias Hansen has recommended Andor, Severance and The Bear. Very similar taste to you,
Good
Dave.
choice, Tobias.
Worst, 1899 had to force me through it, but I love, Tobias, that you did watch it all. Much like Dave.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
Emma McCarthy, Best, The Dropout, House of the Dragon, A League of Their Own, and then Laura O'Dowd has got Hacks season 2. We've never watched that.
No, Hacks is... I hear a lot of good things about
I
Hacks.
do as well. And Julia, don't know that one. And Better Call Saul, sorry that we're terrible and have not watched it.
I've watched 2 seasons of Better Call Saul. I will go back at some stage and finish it.
Stephen KT recommends everything we did: The Bear, Andor, White Lotus, Severance, Bad Sisters. Liz Mitchell has recommended Sherwood, which a lot of people recommend. It's on BBC, and I don't know.
It's a Robin Hood thing, Sherwood.
I don't know, but I know a lot of people recommended it. Midwich Cuckoos, have not ever heard of that. And Blackbird, which is on Apple TV Plus, which I know a lot of people recommend, has
Michael Flatley's done a series.
no, Taron Egerton.
Oh my God, yes!
A lot of people
I really do want to
recommend
watch that. He's in prison, right?
Yeah.
Liz Mitchell, absolutely knocking it out of the park with shows I've never heard of, and now I want to watch. Tom H. Says Tom did it in like loads of different sections, which I love, and these are categories we might steal for next year. TV shows that my wife and I most anticipated the next episodes of: Bad Sisters, White Lotus 2, For All Mankind season 3, other strong TV shows: Borgen, Power and Glory. I don't know Power and Glory. I've heard of Borgen. Andor. He says, I can't believe I'm listing a Star Wars show, but it was great. As Davis highlighted, it includes a rebellion against fascism, a bank robbery and a jailbreak, all with style, a great cast, and absolutely no Darth Vader or lightsabers. Yes. He's got Hacks season 2. He's got Annika. He says, I never watch police shows, but really like this one, especially when main character breaks the fourth wall. Never heard of this. This is why you guys are great. What is that show? Why is there so much TV? And he's also got Derry Girls season 3, Abbott Elementary, I don't know what that is, Only Murders in the Building season 2, which we've started and not finished.
We forgot to mention
we do like that show.
We both like it, but we haven't finished it.
And Starstruck, Rose Matafeo's show, season 2 of that. We also started and haven't finished that, and I feel bad.
I feel bad because
she's lovely.
It was in my top 5 of last year, so
Yeah.
I need to get on it.
Why didn't we finish it?
Because there's too much TV.
It's just too much. Such as Johnny Key's recommendations. He says his best TV is Bluey season 3. It's
Wow.
so good. And guys, I do recommend, even if you don't have kids, stick Bluey on Disney Plus, because it's just sweet and lovely and beautifully written. He's got Andor, he's got Rings of Power, he's got Reacher. We didn't talk about Reacher, but we did watch the pilot of Reacher on Prime Video.
Pilot.
Really good.
Recommended by our friend Nick.
He's kind of like
Who's
John
obsessed with it.
Cena, but not John Cena.
Yeah.
Because he's just like an absolute like unit. And he is. Yeah, we really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
let's go back and watch it. Claire C has a list. Stuff I have loved this year: Big Boys on Channel 4. What's that?
Big Boys was recommended to us last year. We read it out on this list. It's been subsequently recommended by loads of people, including my friend Morwenna. It's on my list of things to watch.
What is it?
It's a Channel 4 comedy about 2 boys in school, I think one of whom's gay. It's apparently brilliant anyway, so
it's like the in-betweeners for the modern times?
I don't think that at all. I love your synopsis there.
I'm happy to have a stab at synopsizing something I've
Anyway,
never heard
this
of.
is 2 years in a row people are telling us we should watch it. We need to watch it.
Okay, she's also got The Bear, Only Murders in the Building, Yellow Jacket, Slow Horses, and Bad Sisters. We've got a few more to read out here.
Okay. I'm just going to read out the ones
missed
that...
James.
Oh, I'm going to read out ones that aren't on our list. But James, I do want to say thank you so much for being the person who recommended The Resort to us, because we got so much joy from it. He also has Pachinko, which is something he keeps recommending that we need to watch.
We've watched 2 episodes of it. We think it's brilliant.
Yeah, on
but again,
Apple
it
TV
just
Plus.
fell out of our cycle.
And he recommends The Patient, and he said he's seen it all and he still recommends it. Ariane has The Sandman. Ariane has got The Sandman, except for the weird aspect ratio. Okay, interesting. Bridgerton.
We haven't seen that.
Ariane, I haven't watched Bridgerton season 2, but my mother and my sisters and I did a massive episode over on Patreon on season 1 and had the best fun ever. And she's got Derry Girls, Rings of Power and House of Dragon. Sophie Keeley has got Stranger Things season 4 in her top. Not many people have that, as well as lots of other ones we've recommended. Tom George has got Andor. I genuinely think it's the best Star Wars product ever. Okay, we all need to watch Andor. And Severance, of course. And Mike Duggan, friend of the pod and patron, has got... He loves Apple TV Plus. He's got Slow Horses,
Yes,
Blackbird, For All Mankind. He's also got Ozark. No one else has mentioned that.
Yeah, that was the final series of Ozark, I think.
Cobra Kai season 5, We Own This City, and Kenobi. And Jason has got The English, which I see is on lots of people's lists.
What's that?
Don't know. Need to watch it.
How is there so much TV that we don't know about?
Doctor Who, and then he says
We don't watch Doctor Who.
Rings of Power and Severance. He says he's out of touch and he's mainly comfort watching older shows. Well, Jason, my friend, you'll be interested in our comfort watch segment then.
Oh, is that what we're doing next?
No, we did it already.
Oh, we did it already. Oh, that was the Joy Watch. Okay. So what are we doing next, Kathy? We're nearly on the home stretch now.
What we are doing next is
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah, guilty pleasure.
I think we're going to have the same guilty pleasure. My guilty pleasure is Love is Blind.
I was going to say 1, 2, 3, go, but you've done it already.
Oh, sorry. Is
Love
that yours?
is Blind. We had so much fun watching season 3. We watched season 1, never watched season 2. Didn't matter. Jumped back into season 3, and we did massive episodes about this on our Patreon that literally 2 people listened to, and we didn't care because we were so happy.
We did like an hour and a half at the end talking about Love is Blind season 3.
It's just such a friendly. I mean, does anyone not know the format? Explain it.
So it is. It's a reality dating show, and they put all the guys, because it's all heteronormative, and they put all the guys on one side and put all the girls on the other side, and then there's these pods where they meet in the middle, and they can't see each other, but they can talk to each other, and they have kind of speed dating. So they get to know each other, and then by the end you obviously propose to someone you've never seen before, and then
they fall in love.
They fall in love, then they propose.
And then they all meet in real life and realise love isn't blind. And
but that's what I like about the show, is that it's like, that's the rom-com bit, and then they're like, right, now you guys are going to go live together and go to your jobs, and then talk about things like abortion, which comes up during this. Like,
really
and I'm
interesting, because this season was set in Dallas, Texas, and we know how contentious and toxic the abortion debate is in Texas. So I actually found it really refreshing that a show even showed us that conversation. Things about like how neat or tidy someone is. Things about like what you might fight over, for example, whether one should eat a cutie or not.
Yeah.
And if you know, you know.
And I think what I like about the show is, I think you said it about the traitors. There's an interesting range of like cast on this, in that they're not all the wannabe influencers, although some of them do get exposed to be.
They're all influencers now.
Yeah, well, yes, but but there's a real range of people. I think, like, to call out Love Island again, everyone on Love Island looks the same, and they're all at 23.
No, Dave, they're all like 21 now. They're getting younger.
So, whereas, this has a 35-year-old going out with a 26-year-old, and they have very different perspectives and stages of life. And I think, so I do like how this explores how couples kind of figure each other out by living together and learning about each other, and whether or not that can last. And some of them you do end up really rooting for.
Yeah, you really care about them.
And I feel that they were relatively authentic.
Some of them you subsequently follow on Instagram, like me. But no, it's really enjoyable, and just quite a lot of fun, really, to watch the chaos when they all meet, and then some of them who dated in the pod fancy people and realise that they aren't engaged to, which is always very enjoyable.
But it is a guilty pleasure, because I feel like the show is emotionally manipulative and forces them into awful situations at times.
Most disappointing for me is in the same vein. I have 2 things, but my first one is the Bachelor franchise.
Oh, no.
I am a big, some could say colossal, massive, wasting my own time fan of the Bachelor franchise. I listen to approximately 10 hours of podcasts a week about the Bachelor, and I watch every episode of it. So this year you had The Bachelor. This is the American one. You had The Bachelor, you had The Bachelorette, and you had Bachelor in Paradise. And each season of all was the worst season of the shows I've ever seen.
Wow.
Like, it's gotten really bad. And to the point where...
Why?
I'll only watch it again next year because I want to listen to the podcast talking about it.
Would you listen to the podcast without having watched it, or does that make it too difficult?
No, I've often started skipping episodes and I just listen to recaps about them. It's just the franchises doesn't know what to do with itself. It's a very traditional show where, like, oh, we all meet this amazing guy, and then at the end we get engaged and get married, and it just doesn't hold up in any sort of a modern era. If you compare it to something like Love is Blind, whereby okay, they get engaged after 13 days, but they've actually spent, or whatever amount of days in the pod, like meaningfully having conversations for like up to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
The Bachelor, you might go on 3 dates with someone and get engaged, and then it just ends on the engagement.
And you're like, and that could be like an hour, 3 hours.
And it ends on the engagement. So it's just so silly. Like when people get engaged now, it's only to be an influencer, and they're, by the time the reunion specials happen, they're already broken up. Whereas at least on Love is Blind, we get to actually watch what happens in real life and stuff. So The Bachelor's really lost the plot. It's terrible. Like Bachelor in Paradise, which is kind of their Love Island, they ordered like 6 extra episodes compared to what they normally do. But they didn't film any extra footage, so they didn't do any more time on it. So they just stretched out episodes with absolutely tedious stuff. And anyway, I won't go on about it because I know none of our listeners.
You were telling me they were doing like sketches,
it was awful,
comedy
like,
sketches.
It was so bad.
Oh my God.
So anyway, most disappointing. And then my other most disappointing of the year was Stranger Things. Even though we did review it a lot on the Patreon, and there's like moments I enjoyed, like obviously running up a hill. But I just feel like the magic that this show had at one point, and I agree with you, it's better than previous seasons, but it just feels like it, oh God, when's it going to end? Like, and it just ended on a note where it's like, we know we're just going to be dragged back to this plot in the next season again.
And I think this show is a victim of its own success. I think it did become and is.
One episode was 2.5 hours long.
Exactly.
Like, that's obscene.
It's a pop culture phenomenon. It has a huge audience base, and I think Netflix aren't very good at being producers and
well,
saying,
I think in fairness, the Duffer Brothers are like single-mindedly in charge of this show, and it's their prerogative.
But I think that's often the problem with the Netflix model is that, and it is a blessing and a curse, that they will give creators complete carte blanche.
Yeah.
And I always come back to Arrested Development, one of my favourite, I think, comedy show of all time, and they did the same to that. Oh my God, the guy's name is escaping me, the creator, but the Hurwitz, Mike Mitchell Hurwitz, or Mike Hurwitz, and it just became bloated and crap. And turns out I think he was working best in the box of the 20th Century Fox 21-minute window.
Yeah, you have 20 minutes, you have 3 trailers, 3 ad breaks, you need 3 cliffhangers, like that kind of stuff that is built into network TV actually really helps shows. Stranger Things, I just like
you do not get extra value for money from the longer episodes.
And there's some brilliant stuff like creature design for Vecna.
It is padding.
Amazing, right? But there's whole subplots with L11 that I could barely look at the TV when they were on.
And if you want to go listen to us talk about for an hour what they should have cut out scene by scene, that's on our Patreon.
Yeah, we have edited this whole thing
because we live edited the show for them. We made a better cut of Stranger Things season 4.
And we say all this with love because we are fans of the franchise.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I want it to succeed,
and I think
succeeded. I like the Duffer Brothers. I'm jealous of them. I think they're our age, like your man who made Severance, and I think they deserve their success. But I just wish they had someone standing over their shoulders saying, guys, maybe we should just cut this out by an hour and a half.
Maybe Mike just actually doesn't need to be in this season.
Yeah. And that's the other problem, and they've said this, they don't want to, they're not Game of, they've said this because Millie Bobby Brown said, I think we should have all been killed off, or kill off some characters, and then they said, look, we're not Game of Thrones, we're not going to do that, we love our characters, that's not what the show is about.
Instead,
and I kind of admire
more
that.
Characters.
This is the problem. Stop adding more characters. So I admire that, but you can't have 15 characters and then give them all something meaningful to do and then have them have any of that pay off. It just doesn't work.
Now, Dave, you need to go to your most disappointing.
It's funny, I feel like that should have been on my most disappointing.
I'm amazed it wasn't.
No, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. It's staying on the honourable mention. So I have 3 shows on my most disappointing. They're all horror shows. 1899 by the creators of Dark. I was
a series we loved.
Which is a series we loved, and this Netflix. Is why it's on my most disappointing list. It's not that it's not good, because I think this show looks amazing. I love the cast. They bring one of the cast members from Dark back as the captain of a vessel. It's got a great plot. He looks amazing. It's got this great plot of a steamship going into from 1899 going looking like a passenger ship. It's Titanic vibes. They're looking for a missing ship. It's all very mysterious. What's going on? And then there's mystery upon mystery, and it's all quite intriguing. And I will credit the show with, by the end of season 1, it pays off like 90% of its mysteries.
That
so
is
it's
good.
not
That
like
is good.
it's
and
not
a lot
like
of our
a
listeners said it was worth it in the end.
yeah. And now here's the thing: is it? That's the question of whether it's worth it or not, because I will credit it for it does provide, I think, a satisfying answer to what the hell is going on. But for me, this is the make or break of any of these things. It just felt like less. It felt lesser because of that for me. So by the end, I'm like, oh, okay, that's it. And I feel like if I hungrily went through this show to get to the end to know the answer, and then you know the answer, and
It's not worth it.
this, when I come back to Lost and why I like Lost, and that got criticised for dragging out all its mysteries and justifiably so, and that was in an era of network television where it was successful and they wanted 24 episodes and we got to keep this going for seasons and seasons, guys. But what?
Could you imagine now that if they made 24 episodes of seasons?
But what Lost was not just a mystery box. Lost had characters who I loved, who I cared for. It had
Love
beautiful
triangle.
music and moments, and I would have, if you took out the mystery elements, I'd have still have loved Lost as a desert island. People, what 1899 lacks is all of that, like interesting
watch it.
characters who you care about,
Like, I
who
think after one and
have
a half
interesting
episodes-
motivations and have emotional moments with each other. This is a cold, lifeless, calculated, and I think Dark to an extent had the same problem. These guys, they're German guys, they're husband and wife actually, I think, who make it. They are they're very smart people. I think they create these brilliant, complicated,
No,
and
Dark
was
had
the same.
really good characters. Dark did.
Dark had better
Yeah.
characters than this, but some of them are kind of intriguing, and they've got kind of intriguing backstories. But like, and nothing like I want. I wasn't emotionally invested in anybody. I just wanted to get to the end to know the answer. Then you know the answer, and then you're like, I kind of feel like I would love to save someone the effort and say, just like, this is what it is, just one sentence.
Well, this is the kind of show that I would.
It's not worth the journey.
Like, I watched 1.5 and stopped because I just didn't care. And if you weren't watching it and you told me in the end, I would have Googled it. It's just one of those shows I would have been like,
and
I
you would have
want
been
to
like,
know.
it's not worth the journey. The
Yeah.
destination isn't worth the journey. But however, I also think it is a well-made, really good and interesting show, and I'm glad that they are out there making stuff. And I'll come back. I probably won't do a season 2 of this, but I'll come back for whatever they do next, because they are talented. Someone else, and that's why it's not on my worst list, it's on my most disappointing list, because I was disappointed. Another one is Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. For me, this is an anthology series, kind of Twilight Zone introduced by Guillermo del Toro, of a series of horror shorts by brilliant horror film directors. Admittedly, I've only watched 4 of these now, but and they are kind of, some of them are kind of good. The F. Murray Abraham one was the best I've watched so far, but they're just all a bit like, do you know, I want this to be better, and so it was disappointing. Particularly the caliber of the directors and the storytelling. It's just like, I would expect like knockout horror stuff instead of just okay kind of stuff. So I wasn't really satisfied. And then lastly, another most disappointing show for me is The Midnight Club by Mike Flanagan.
You watched the whole thing and liked it, I thought.
I watched the whole thing and it was fine, but it's certainly not to the standard I want from Mike Flanagan. And from the
Don't you mean from
Flaniverse.
Flaniverse, yeah.
So Netflix are trying to describe his work as the Flaniverse,
But I think he's
even though
leaving
none of them
Netflix
are
now.
connected. Is he?
I think so.
Well, good for him. I like Mike Flanagan. I have so much time for him. He is the horror director who created the Haunting of Hill House, great series which we both enjoyed. He did, which I think is his best work, Midnight Mass last year,
Loved that,
which I
yeah.
would recommend above this show. The Midnight Club is an adaptation of is it R.L. Stein or one of those
No,
type?
it's not R.L. Stein, but it is like young adult horror.
young adult horror, and it is very much pitched at teenagers, young adults. All its cast members are. It's got a
I
great
actually
premise.
read some of them when I was a teenager, but yet again, I only watched one episode of this show and gave up on it.
So the premise is it's a hospice for terminally ill teenagers who make a pact with each other, which is their midnight club, that if one of them passes away, then they will try to communicate with the rest of the group from beyond the grave. Great premise, right?
Yeah.
And then each...
And cool setting as well.
And then it doesn't really pay off, and I think it is going to do more seasons, but it doesn't really pay off on that premise. pays off some of its mysteries, but honestly, it was all so obvious and from the very beginning that
You do
none
have
of it
to
was
shout out
interesting
though
to
the
me.
breakout Irish star who was found via TikTok.
Oh yes, she was
Very
fantastic.
cool
Sorry,
for her.
I'm sorry, I don't have her name to hand, but she is she is really great. The cast are all great and they're doing great work, and I really admire them. But honestly, this show is a little bit too long for its own good. It's not great. I was disappointed. I expected more from Mike Flanagan. So again, not a bad show, but he's a victim of his own success in that my expectations were too high.
Okay.
Kathy, what were your worst shows of the year?
One worst show of the year.
Okay, go.
It is called The Pentaverate.
Yes, this is on my list as well.
I would be surprised if any of you have heard of it, right? Because this is an example of
surely
how
people have heard of it.
Well, I think this is a really interesting example of how Netflix throw money at creators. In this case, it is
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers, aka Austin Powers. Like, in his day, was one of the biggest, most successfully commercial comedians in the world. Make phenomenally successful movies like Wayne's World
Not just
and
movies,
Austin Powers.
like franchises. And like IP,
Shrek.
like Wayne's World and Austin Powers. Yeah.
Anyway, Netflix threw money at it and made the show. I think what Netflix realised, it was a stinker, because when I say I saw zero marketing for the show, I only heard about it through a podcast I listened to who recommended it. And I can't remember which podcast now. And Game of Roses, a Bachelor podcast. And
They recommended it.
no, they were talking about it,
Oh, right.
and therefore I went and watched it because they said how bad it was. It is shockingly bad, right? So if you take all the worst qualities of Mike Myers, which is like crass humour, playing every character in the bloody thing, clearly in this instance again having no editor, and then if you apply it to like a really bad plot where there's like 5 people who like rule the world, they're kind of like the Illuminati.
That's not a bad idea.
The idea is okay.
Because
the execution is awful. Now I say,
but the idea is that the Illuminati are the good guys. They're trying to rule the world
it's
for
like
good.
Fine, but Mike Myers.
But 4 of them are played by Mike Myers.
And then one is actually the guy from
Keegan-Michael Key.
Yeah, he's really good. Like, he's the best thing in it. Now I have to say, I only watched 3 episodes, so look, if it gets better, I apologise. But they're 3 of the worst episodes of TV.
You
know,
watched 3?
Yeah, when humour
God.
falls so flat that it's like cringingly embarrassing. And
Not
I
only
say
was
this
it-
as
not
someone-
only was it
I
flat,
loved Austin
I was
Powers.
like groaning. Like this is the one of the worst jokes.
Like, he's making dick jokes. Like, it's just tragic.
And I think that's part of the problem with the show is that Mike Myers, like Austin Powers and Wayne's World, were family friendly. There wasn't
this
cursing.
isn't.
There wasn't dick joke. It was all implied sexual innuendo.
And obviously Austin Powers got worse as it went along, but the first Austin Powers movie
It's
in its time was very
cracking
funny.
movie and holds up. I've seen it recently. And
Oh my god, How I Married an Axe Murderer, one of my favourite films.
So, but I think Netflix again gave him carte blanche, and he could swear for the first time. So it's got like swearing and really crass humour, and it is not to its benefit. It is to its detriment, because I think we were all teenagers or young kids kind of growing up with Mike Myers' comedy, and it was appealing to us and it was appealing to grown-ups, so it had broad appeal. Now we, as his previous target demo, have grown up and matured. Kind of, he has not, and also this isn't suitable for kids, so I'm not sure who's
but
this
it's also
for.
not funny.
And it's
that's
just
its
not
biggest
funny.
crime.
Yeah, it isn't.
It's actually awful. I'd love if you guys took a look at it and just kind of tell us what you think, because you'll be really shocked. It's
But
also sad because, like,
it's
Mike
sad
Myers
because
is a
I
guy
like
who's-
him.
He's very clever and he's very talented, and
This is his first time, like.
he reminds me a bit, and I'm not at all saying he's like John Cleese in his personal life, but the way people who made such good stuff in their day, and now you're like, oh Jesus Christ. Like, Mike Myers has a lot of talent, and I think if he had maybe collaborated with other, a bit like the reboot, the TV show we both like, where you've got the new woker writers room and the older writers room coming together, and then they create good stuff. Mike Myers needs that.
Yeah, because this is
He doesn't kind of get why it's not funny. I'd
It
say.
is a singular vision. I think this is exactly what Mike Myers wanted to produce, and it is 100% Mike Myers.
Like, you know, if you lived with Mike Myers, he'd like put whoopee cushions under you and stuff.
Yeah, it needed a bit of reining in. It just felt
Needed to not exist.
Honestly, though, I just felt sad. It just made me sad
it was
because
really depressing.
Because this was a passion project of his. I heard him on the Smartless podcast talking about it, and he was quite excited. You know, this is a real passion project, something he's always wanted to do, and it's his first time back after a while. And like, but really, guys, it's just not good.
Yeah.
And I think that's got to be really hard for him. And I think he seemed like a really nice guy.
Well, maybe he really is happy with the end product, and fine. And he probably got paid millions of dollars. So how bad?
No, but I don't think he needs millions of dollars at this stage.
Yeah.
He needs his like work to be appreciated, and I don't think it was or deserves to be.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad. I've got two other things on my worst of the year. One is the Book of Boba Fett, which is a spin-off show of The Mandalorian, another Star Wars show. And genuinely, and I think The Mandalorian is good. I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are really brought that show along, gave us something. And I think season 2 fell off a cliff for me, but I think they were trying to do something a little bit different, do their own thing, and also just tie it into the Star Wars universe enough. But it's good. It's got a banging theme song. It's like got good Western vibes. Pedro Pascal is fantastic. It has brought us, Groot, Baby Yoda, which is now obviously a huge success and deserves to be great. Great sort of setup, of this the stranger and the child. It's really good.
Are you talking about The Mandalorian?
No, I'm talking about that's The Mandalorian. Okay. That's good. Then they introduce Boba Fett in season 2 because he's a fan favorite, and this is the problem. Like, The Mandalorian exists because Boba Fett was a fan favorite, and he was a character in Return of the Jedi that had no lines in the 80s, and everyone thought he was cool because he didn't speak. And this is exactly the problem. They've missed the point.
When you give characters who don't speak lines.
Exactly. He was cool and interesting because he was a blank template for us to imagine with the wildly successful Boba Fett toys what sort of adventures this bounty hunter would have got up to. And then, that was fleshed out a little bit in books. But then when you actually see the reality of it brought to life, it's like 6 episodes of a character, and you get to know this character, and it turns out he's just boring. He's a bloody boring sap, and he's not a cool, edgy, bad guy, because they wanted to be kind of have a moral compass and do like interesting things. And he also wants to be a gangster. And I'm like, what is this show? This show doesn't know what it wants to be. It is flawed from the start. It is, and I think it was just kind of a disaster with some good moments. I will admit, it looks good and it's well produced and has a couple of good moments. And Tamara Morrison, who I like that they brought him back. He played Jango Fett in the prequels, and he's doing his best here. But this show is just was doomed from the start and was shite. So I'm amazed that my worst and best of the year are both Star Wars shows. And then lastly, I'm going to add on. I'm going to finish on a show that I didn't watch.
What?
But I didn't watch it.
It has no business being on your list.
But I'm going to put it on my worst of the list because it deserves to be there.
That is not
and
good journalistic practice.
Picard Season 2.
Dave.
I see you, Picard Season 2.
Dave.
I don't need to watch you.
Strike from the record. Strike from the record.
I know that you are the worst show on TV.
Strike from the record. We are not here to criticise or critique shows that we've not seen.
I watched enough of Picard Season 1. And I tell you, I refuse to watch Picard Season 2.
I refuse to listen to
But
you.
I have watched so much commentary about it online, and I watch scenes from it on YouTube because I'm hungry for people to shit on it.
First of all, this is unacceptable. This is not how we do this podcast. Second of all, stop talking. You've been struck from the record.
This show is so unforgivable that they create such
you were lowering
a
the
bad
standard of our
show
podcast.
from such a beloved character.
I know, he's my favourite
and
character.
drag Patrick Stewart through this muck.
You know what they need to make next?
He willingly does it.
Do you know what? Of course he's getting paid.
But he is what it turns out to be is that his version of Patrick Stewart in Extras, where he is a terrible screenwriter.
You already gave out about Picard last year.
Fine.
Okay, so struck from the record. Now, we are going to go to our.
I just hate what they've done to him.
Patrons' worst TV of the year. But before we do, we want to say thank you so much to everyone for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please send us your best and worst TV of the year. Stuff we haven't mentioned, we'd love to hear from you because we really want recommendations. As you can tell, We watch a lot of TV. And if you've enjoyed listening to this, please head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and rate us 5 stars. We would greatly appreciate it. And now, shall we read our patrons' worst of the year? Everyone always has the most fun with the worst lists.
It's really fun to shit on something.
But we do it with kindness, and we would never critique something we haven't watched.
Of course, I would never do that. Right, so here's some of the worst TV from our patrons. So David Ben-Yahya, he says the worst TV film, Rings of Power and She-Hulk are on his worst list. Now, a lot of people had She-Hulk, and it's funny because you and I both had them on our honourable mentions.
Yeah.
But I get it. I can see, we've spoken to people in real life who did not like Rings of Power, had many issues with it. That's fine. And She-Hulk didn't work for a lot of people either.
I mean,
and I think that's
weird,
fine too.
like, yeah.
Laura O'Dowd, her worst TV, Inventing Anna.
Oh, sugar! That was supposed to be one of
was
my
that this
guilty
year or
pleasures.
last year?
Inventing Anna.
Anna.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That
It was
was a
terrible.
guilty pleasure, yeah. Pam and Tommy, you watched a bit of that, didn't you?
Oh, I did watch a bit of that. Yeah.
She says she's not a prude, but she couldn't get past the talking penis. There was a talking penis?
He spoke to his own junk a lot.
Oh, great.
I thought it was very good, and the actors are very good. But I talked a little bit about Blonde in our film one. I think I just don't agree with it. I think they should leave Pamela Anderson alone.
Yeah.
And I think that story has been exploited enough and doesn't need to be done again. That being said, they paid a fantastic Tommy Lee and Pammy. They did a really good job.
They looked the part.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
I watched 2 episodes of it and they were very good. Yeah.
And Laura also has House of the Dragon on here as her worst. She says it would have been okay, but for the gory birth scenes. And I'll agree.
100% agree.
Agree with you on that. They were way too much.
Did you notice that House of the Dragon was on none of my lists?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
I
So
just feel like
you just feel
we
about
spoke
it.
about it enough this year, and yeah,
Okay.
that's all I have to say on it.
Um,
But I 100% agree with you on the birth scenes.
Johnny Keys, his worst TV of the year, Moon Knight. Yeah, a lot of people hated that. The Terminal List. Don't know what that is.
No. I'm so sorry. There seems to be a teenager who's gotten like a motorised tractor for Christmas. And
Looks
she's
pretty-
just
looks pretty fun,
riding up
actually.
and down next to us, and she's in a dressing gown.
That's the way. That's how you live your life. And then he also has Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I also cannot argue with. Matthew Wallace Wells, his worst TV, The Sandman. He says it's so overblown and slow. We haven't watched it. And Blockbuster. Why was this even made? What's Blockbuster?
No idea.
Oh, I do know this one. This is it's a sitcom with Randall Park, I think is the guy's name, and it's set in the last Blockbuster in America, Blockbuster Video.
That's kind of fun.
Which is kind of a good idea, but clearly, according to Matthew, not very good. Also, he says it was well made, but Dahmer made me feel like I need to have a good wash after every episode. That is a show I have no interest
Oh,
in
that
watching.
was like huge on Netflix this year. It was
Yeah.
one of the biggest shows.
I just don't want to
don't
spend
like,
a second with. We don't like true
we don't
crime
like true
stuff.
crime, yeah.
I don't want to spend a second with Jeffrey
But
Dahmer.
I know the guy who's in it, who's the guy who starred in loads of American Horror Stories.
Evan Peters is the guy's name,
He's
or
a-
Evan something.
He's a great actor.
He's a very good actor.
Yeah.
Paul Wallace. I want to shout out Paul Wallace, one of our patrons, for writing the most comprehensive list
Yeah, incredible.
of best movie, TV. And he wrote little commentary on all. Paul, I can't read it all out, but I do recommend if you're on our Patreon page, go under the latest post with everyone's comments and read Paul's, because he did a better job of verbalizing this than I have, definitely, for sure. But I'll read out his most disappointing series because I thought they were interesting. His most disappointing series, The Rehearsal. He says, I got turned off over time, didn't know what it was about. Nathan For You was breaking down get-rich-quick schemes and was realistic and believable, but I found this convoluted, possibly scripted. It didn't help tie any themes together, not beyond what I got in the first episode. And he says to have
I mean,
the
the
same
end
theme
is
over
very
and over again
different.
killed it for me, as it was the same message I got initially with no other themes being introduced. I don't disagree with that. I think
Yeah, I get it.
he is potentially making the same point over and over again, but I still absolutely loved it. What were you saying, sorry?
I was just saying, though, it ended quite differently than it began as well. Not on the theme point, but like how they constructed the episodes. So I can see why if you really like the beginning, you mightn't like the end, and vice versa.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't start. It doesn't end where it starts.
Yeah.
He has the. I thought Paul's were interesting because he has his most disappointing were some of our best ones. So it's always good to get other perspectives. He says The Patient. He says, as this was created by the same people as The Americans, my expectations were high for this going in. There was some great acting by Steve Carell particularly, but some unbelievable script choices broke my suspension of disbelief, and it did not get better.
So funny, he's not finished it. Maybe he's finished it.
Maybe
We
it's
haven't
finished in
anyway.
the States, maybe.
Maybe it's finished here
Yeah.
now. We haven't watched it in a few weeks.
And he also has Gangs of London Season 2. Now, we haven't seen any of this show.
But I know everyone loves season 1.
But I do know it was made by the guy that made The Raid, Matt something, the Welsh guy. And I love The Raid. And this is supposed to have great action, so I would like to give it a look. But Paul says, I overall enjoyed Season 1 greatly. Soap Dirisu was amazing and his story was compelling. With Season 2 it was like they had him available for half a day, hardly in it, and not much to do. The B and C plots were awful. I have got to believe that Gareth Evans, thank you, that's the guy, creator, writer and director of the Raid movies, wasn't connected to Season 2. It was so bad. I think you're right, Paul. I don't think he was really connected to Season 2, or very tangentially so. John Salmon, do you want to read some of these out,
Okay.
Kathy?
Worst Moon Knight. Worst MCU thing since Falcon and What's His Face. Miss Marvel, which you didn't. I don't think you really spoke about, but you liked that one. It was kind of middle for.
I thought overall it was pretty good, but it's not great.
It's just
average.
yeah. But I also said to Dave about Miss Marvel because I watched a bit of it and thought it was good. I'm sorry, but you're a 38-year-old man. It's aimed at teenagers, and you have to take that into account.
I'm sure
you're
it
not
would have hit home.
You're not the audience.
I'm glad that it exists, and I'm glad
I
that
loved
it's
it.
giving. Kamala Khan is a
she's brilliant.
really nice character. I like that she's like a comic book geek, and it focuses a lot on her family and the Muslim community. So I think that and
I really liked
think
it.
that's good.
I just was like, I'm too old for it. Walking Dead finale. I've heard a lot of people say that. Peaky Blinders finale. Haven't heard anyone say that. He's got the better Call Saul finale, and now he said basically every finale this year was bad except The Last Kingdom and Dairy Girls. The White Lotus
and Severance, the best finale of the year.
The White Lotus, 6 episodes in, and I've no idea what's going on and what it is, or if it's worth carrying on. It is, because it's got a cracking finale.
Go stick to the end, John. One
The
more
Peacemaker,
episode.
Dave, he's really against you, and The Boys, and Gangs of London. Emma Curry says, not the worst, but just the most mind-boggling, The Rehearsal. Can someone explain to me what I watched? Alexander Sykes, worst shows, House of the Dragon. Why continue to watch something I thoroughly disliked? Who can say? Me too, Alex. I kind of had the same problem, though I did think it picked up at the end. Moon Knight, Obi-Wan and Boba Fett. John Salmon, again, I forgot to mention the abomination that was She-Hulk, where ironically the abomination was the only half decent thing in it. Very good.
Very good.
Tatiana Maslany was good as Jennifer, but the CGI and the narrative weren't.
The CGI
The whole of her wasn't.
is pretty ropey in that.
I forgive bad CGI though, but John, fair enough, I agree.
But I will say, I think
but also
interesting
disagree.
Interesting there at the end that everyone, I really like that everyone pulled out a lot of our honourable mentions. I will say though, look up on the CGI of She-Hulk. It's worth reading into the background of that, because there's a lot of controversy around the VFX houses in the States being absolutely crunched by Marvel on unrealistic deadlines.
Yeah, really interesting. Being pixel-effed is the term.
Is that the term? Yeah. So I think, to be fair, I think I don't think the end product is great. I agree with that, but I think they did the best they could with whatever circumstances they had.
Now, before there's no one near us, I'm going to try and do my White Lotus thing. Okay,
go.
And I've built it up too much. Okay.
There's people coming.
Cut it
Quick,
out if it's really bad.
Go. Thank you for that. Are you okay?
So
Are you out of breath now?
Was it worth it? Yes. If it's really bad, will you cut it out?
If it's really, if you really like that, leave us a 5-star review on your podcaster of choice, because Kathy just put a lot of it. She's literally putting her breath on the line.
I literally need to use my inhaler now.
Yeah.
And also, please message us all your TV stuff, because we'd love to hear it. Head over to our best movies of the year, because we've already released that episode by the time we release this. And come join us on Patreon, where we talk about TV all month long with our patrons and have the best fun. And we also do retro movies, where every month we watch an old film before 2010. That is the ruling.
Yeah. Cool Runnings is next.
Yeah, Cool Runnings is next, which I can't wait for.
And we're going to be talking about The Last of Us when that comes out.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we're going to be watching The Last of Us for sure. We're huge fans of Craig Mazin, who wrote Chernobyl, and Dave is a huge fan of the video game. So really looking forward to that, and looking forward to watching loads of great TV and seeing you guys all next year. Thank you for listening. We appreciate every single one of you who listens, who downloads, who gets in touch, and we particularly big shout out to our patrons for all those amazing, really long posts that you wrote about your TV and film of the year, and we loved reading them, and we think we managed to read something from everyone.
Yes.
We hope we did.
So sorry if we missed anyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks again to all our listeners for a great year. Looking forward to walking home from the movies with all of you next year. And thanks, Kathy, again for being a lovely wife and co-host.
And co-parent.
I wouldn't like to do this with anyone else except John Cena.
But you also
John, I'm available.
But you also have a podcast with Kobe and Helen, so you can't say that.
But I mean this walking home from our local cinema.
Well, it wouldn't
obviously
work.
if John's going to come out to Cork and walk home from...
But it wouldn't work with Kobe and Helen because they live in London. If you guys don't know, Dave actually has another TV podcast. So he's got his Darker Materials with Helen O'Hara, and he's got The Wire Stripped with
which
Kobe.
guys, season 4 is coming. Season 4 is coming. It's mostly in the can. We just need to wrap it up. We have talked to all the boys, the boys of summer. We've got them all.
It's the definitive Wire podcast. The Ringer tried to bring one out. It was embarrassing. Yours is better.
Yeah. Oh, and we spoke to David Simon this year as well.
We spoke to David
which is
Simon.
available. You can go listen to our chat with David Simon now on The Wire Stripped.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you've spoken to loads of the stars, right? Including like Clark Peters, my personal fave.
Yeah, Clark's been on the show a lot with us.
Can't wait to hear all the voice though. Okay. Goodbye everyone.
Bye everyone.
Thanks
for
you
listening.
so much for listening, and see you soon.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Make a move extreme. Shortcut to your dream. Float straight to the stars on a flying thing. Get the snow blind game. Pick a tune, chick a boon in the world beyond. Got a beat, got a heat on a phony string. Tear your world apart. Once the magic starts. Do you really wanna taste it? What's going on must come down.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What would you say if I told you there's a book that can teach you how to win The Bachelor?
What would you say if I told you producers caught multiple finalists reading that book in this season that's currently airing?
What would you say if I told you the producers don't want anyone to know that their show has been compromised?
How do we know all this? We wrote that book.
I'm Lizzie Pace.
And I'm Chad Colchin.
We're the authors of How to Win the Bachelor and the hosts of the Game of Roses podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where we break down all the biggest plays, errors, and MVPs in the game of reality television.
Listen to Game of Roses wherever you get your podcasts and go to howtowinthebachelor.com to get our book.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.